Master Kosher. I'm going to drop some fire for their minds. I'm Eve 777, your happy assistant, an advocate for men and traditional women that want wholeness. The Color Purple is a movie where art imitates life. A movie where broken women project their traumas via project, overgeneralization, displaced aggression, and fear. This movie keeps black women and those of trauma in a state suspend animation, victim blaming, and stopping them from getting love. Master Kosher. You are a professional therapist that uses art therapy to imitate life. We will break the chains tonight.
Cognitive dissonance is a condition that happens for a myriad of reasons. Many times in modern America, men and women often do one of the following. They deny the evidence. They become enraged when you present them with the evidence. They argue to ad hominem attacks, meaning they attack the messenger instead of the message. And they will fight you or flee because they cannot hear what you are saying. And conditions such as this, tied into cognitive dissonance, often happens to those that have or lack self-awareness. They stay in a perpetual cycle of arrested development, exhibited by this. Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician.
Delusional women. A phenomenon shrouded in mystery and intrigue. Delusion, simply put, is a state of mind in which a person firmly holds on to false beliefs despite clear evidence to the contrary. This intriguing condition is not limited to any particular gender, but it is often associated with women. In the realm of mental health, delusions can manifest in various forms. Some women may have delusions about their physical appearance, believing they are hideous or disfigured when, in reality, they are not. Others may develop delusions about their relationships, believing their loved ones are plotting against them or that they possess special powers. What causes these delusions in women? Well, the answer is not so simple. Delusions can arise from a combination of genetic, biological, and environmental factors. Hormonal changes, such as those experienced during pregnancy or menopause, may also play a role in triggering delusions in some women. It's important to note that delusions are not just harmless fantasies or daydreams. They can have a profound impact on an individual's daily life, causing distress, anxiety, and even leading to self-harm or harm to others. Delusional women may become socially isolated, withdrawing from friends and family as they become more engulfed in their false beliefs. Thankfully, there is help available for delusional women. Mental health professionals can provide therapy and medication to help manage and alleviate delusions. By working closely with a healthcare team, women experiencing delusions can learn coping mechanisms, challenge their false beliefs, and regain control over their lives. In conclusion, delusional women are not a rare or fantastical concept. Delusions can affect anyone, regardless of gender. It is essential to provide support, understanding, and treatment to those who experience delusions, so they can lead fulfilling lives and break free from the grasp of false beliefs.
It's a hard thing to admit, but it's understandable why they would choose to go their own way, and that's what's scary, is there's actually a rational reason why they would do that.
Men going their own way. And you can think what you want about it, but this is a really big problem. For women, for us, for our future, for families, for you to find a partner. If a population of good men are walking away because they're fed up with women.
If you're being told all your life that you are bad and wrong just for being a man, and that you have toxic masculinity for being a man, and that, women, there's this famous expression that, a woman needs a man just like a fish needs a bicycle. And that men are basically useless. And that men are terrible and that, women are superior.
Our society is very callous towards men. The only message most men hear in the world is that they're a bumbling buffoon. The TV shows are full of idiot men. Commercials show men as buffoons. The society is against them. All they hear about is what idiots men are.
It's the mass of women that are taking over the culture and representing women. They're loud. They're mean. They say they want equality. Why are they not protesting in the streets for the changing the laws for alimony or child support or child custody? Because they don't want equality. They want superiority.
The male gender has more of a slave state, and it's because men are now subjugated to the law and to women, and nobody really believes it except the men who go through, say, the court. But most men think that they're exempt from that until they end up in a bad situation.
So for a lot of the men, and a lot of them have gotten screwed over in terrible relationships and divorces and gotten their kids taken away from them. So it's an understandable response.
In the United States of America, as a man, you can't speak up. I think most women tend to be I'm stereotyping, but they tend to be more collectivist. They tend to sort of be more in that socialist mindset. So I don't know that you're going to see a huge change. I think the change will have to come from men.
The lives of women will not change until the men get the opportunity to also examine and define and change their lives. In many ways, I sometimes think that the 20th century was the century where the women made all these massive changes, and the 21st century will be the changes that the men will make, partly in adaptation to the changes that the women have done.
And those men are doing something about it. They're saying, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm not getting married, or I'm divorced. They don't sit around just trying to live their life through women. They actually have lots of hobbies. They go out, they buy that land you were talking about. They're getting motorcycles. They're having a good time, and they're enjoying life without having to deal with the stress of the women and the society that tells them they have to have a woman in their life.
How would you feel? I mean, you're not going to feel that attracted to a woman or care to be loving towards her or romantic towards her. So this men going their own way is a reaction to that. I really think it's a rational reaction to that. Men are finally like, hey, we've given you all you want. You are equal in every way, and then you're still shaming us.
Fall comes to us in its own time. Finders keepers, losers we.
Word on the streets? Get ready for an epic joint live stream event. Join us as we bring together the powerhouses of live streamers. Messy Michon Live? This might be risky. The Culture Clinician. Take heed to the message. Will Bravado Network. Black Man Unfiltered. Painful Excellence Podcast. And Almond 78. We are expecting other high-profile guests. Together, we're diving deep into the controversial cinematic update of The Color Purple. It's a no-holds-barred discussion with a burning question. Was the film the original attack on the black male image of America? A first-of-its-kind, epic live joint stream? This is more than just a question. It's a riveting exploration of perspectives so potent, it will shatter and reshape everything you thought you knew about this cinematic saga. This isn't just an event. It's a groundbreaking, eye-opening odyssey into the depths of film critique and social commentary. Don't just watch. Be a part of a systemic shift in understanding. December 18th, 7:30 p.m. Central. Set your reminders. Word on the streets. Don't miss this.
Well, listen, I appreciate that, Quiet Storm. I'm honored that you said that, man, because doing these shows are not easy. It's not easy doing these shows, man. And I am a licensed therapist, and this is edutainment for me, using clinical concepts from an ethnocentric perspective. And so, man, I'm honored that you said that, man. I really appreciate that, brother. Thank you, the Quiet Storm. You and I have talked in the back. And I got nothing but love and respect for you. You, Gregory Scott, and Salty Balls, and
Shoo, shoo, shine,
membership channel of the Kosher Clinician. There are 4 levels to this channel. There is Kosher Novice, Kosher Apprentice, Kosher Master, and the highest honors is Kosher King. You guys know I am the Kosher Clinician, and everything I do or strive to do is fit and proper. But many times we know that YouTube is a very competitive business. Some get it from the mud like me, some actually steal talking points or more or less parrot talking points without consent or giving credence to the person that did the actual work. And because of that, I'm going to start making most of my content membership only to the great guys like Gregory Scotland, The Quiet Storm, my man Saul, and many others that always donate to the channel. Feel free to click on the link to the membership button. It'll give you all the explicit instructions that you need. And continue to enjoy content like this as listed to the top as we continue to strive to empower men from all ages and all ages. You know and I know that creating content takes a lot of time. And in order for me to ensure that my time is merited, to ensure that you guys are getting the best content to those, especially those that donate and show love on a regular basis, I've taken upon myself to take my craft seriously, or very serious, and to more or less ensure that you, the faithful listeners, men and women, but mostly men, are getting the best content possible so that you can not only get your needs met, but also so that I can ensure that I get the proper revenue, as these streams take a lot of time and they take a lot of work. And I need you guys to understand this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized, and understanding why becoming a member of this prestigious channel is paramount as we seek for resolve in times when male-centered content is not only under attack, but so is masculinity. Be well.
Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician. Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician.
If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads pick it back up and young dope them. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues, asking fathers who miss you, mama drama don't kiss you, all a part of the ritual, this is how they get you, separate the men, women, clipping babies pretend to, damn, lovers, haters, acting like vultures, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher, if it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher, if it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher, if it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is Kosher Condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is Kosher Condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is Kosher Condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is Kosher Condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen.
All right, guys, we're here on tonight. We are here on tonight as we bring it to you live from the greatest state in the union, the Tar Heel State. There is no state greater than the Tar Heel State. And guys, it's a pleasure to have a conversation with the esteemed brethren and the conscious sisters. Well, one will argue, guys, that the more things change, the more things remain the same. And many would say that the narrative of the color purple has caused a lot of consternation between men and black women. I want to explore this thing and analyze this thing from a psychoanalytic perspective. And we're going to talk about why or if the media use black women to project hate towards the black men in their lives. Get the pens and paper ready. We're going to get into it in a moment. But in the meantime, get ready for this episode I got with Real Bravado Network, Take Heed to the Message, and many more. Talk about the denigration of the black male image.
Word on the streets? Get ready for an epic joint live stream event. Join us as we bring together the powerhouses of live streamers. Messy Michon Live? This might be risky. The Kosher Clinician. Take heed to the message. Real Bravado Network. Black Man Unfiltered. Painful Excellence Podcast. and Harmonize 78. We are expecting other high-profile guests. Together, we're diving deep into the controversial cinematic update of The Color Purple. It's a no-holds-barred discussion with a burning question. Was the film the original attack on the black male image of America? A first-of-its-kind, epic live joint stream? This is more than just a question. It's a riveting exploration of perspectives so potent, it will shatter and reshape everything you thought you knew about this cinematic saga. This isn't just an event, it's a groundbreaking, eye-opening odyssey into the depths of film critique and social commentary. Don't just watch. Be a part of a systemic shift in understanding. December 18th, 7:30 p.m. Central. Set your reminders. Word on the streets, don't miss this.
All right, guys, can you hear me? If you can hear me, hit 1. Testing, testing. If you can hear me, hit 1. If you can hear me, hit 1. We're going to have an epic show with Real Bravado Network. Shout out to that brother. It will definitely be one of its kind. It's going to be groundbreaking, the first of its kind on YouTube. Yes, sir, black men and black women with a singular objective. And we're going to kill the game, guys, at some point. Brother Eric, I'll give you the link at some point, and we're going to break this thing down. But in the meantime, guys, get your pens and paper ready, guys. Donate to the channel because it takes a lot of work doing this content together. And, guys, as we're about to get into it, I've taken it upon myself to break down this thing from a psychoanalytic perspective. Now, some of you don't understand that when it comes down to doing these shows, it's best to look at it through the lens of the clinical. And while I'm not here to give a diagnosis, I am here to give a clinical impression. And me and my trusty assistant, who is a robot, we're about to do it. Eve 007, let's start the show.
Master Kosher, I'm going to drop some fire for their minds. I'm Eve 777, your happy assistant, an advocate for men and traditional women that want wholeness. The Color Purple is a movie where art imitates life. A movie where broken women project their traumas via project, overgeneralization, displaced aggression, and fear. This movie keeps black women and those of trauma in a state suspend animation, victim blaming, and stopping them from getting love. Master Kosher, you are a professional therapist that uses art therapy to imitate life. We will break the chains tonight.
All right, my next assistant, who is my kosher bot, load the machine.
Kosher bot, load the machine.
Yes, Master Kosher, at your service, right away.
Nanobots, transform.
The topic at hand is the controversial statement that the color purple hates black men. To fully understand and explain this statement, it is important to provide context. The Color Purple is a novel written by Alice Walker in 1982, which was later adapted into a critically acclaimed film in 1985. The story revolves around African American women living in the rural South during the early 20th century, exploring themes of race, gender, and power dynamics. The statement that the color purple hates black men seems to stem from the perspective that some readers or viewers feel the book and film primarily focus on the mistreatment and abuse inflicted upon women by black men. While it is true that the novel and film address issues of domestic violence and male oppression, it is essential to note that the narrative also emphasizes the strength, resilience, and sisterhood of the female characters. Instead of promoting hatred towards black men, The Color Purple serves as an exploration of complex relationships between men and women within a particular historical and cultural backdrop. It highlights the struggles and challenges faced by African American women during a time of systemic racism and gender inequality. It is worth mentioning that literature and film can provoke diverse interpretations and emotional responses from different individuals. While some may interpret the story as being critical of black men, Others find value in the book's exploration of intersectionality and the experiences of African American women. Ultimately, it is up to readers and viewers to engage with the story and form their own opinions. However, it is crucial to approach these discussions with an understanding of the historical and social context in which The Color Purple was created.
All right, guys, so the question on tonight, as this show circles around the dynamics of the movie The Color Purple, but those that push the agenda, like the Oprah Winfreys of the world, the Sally Jeffrey Raphaels of the world, and also the Ricky Lakes of the world, where a percentage of women, we're not saying all, took their trauma, their pain, their fears, the vicarious traumas of their mothers, and they projected that to equivocate all black men as being violent, dangerous, not taking care of their kids, cheaters, and abusers. But here's the problem with that, guys. The evidence is to the contrary when it relates to black men being these boogeymen. The evidence is to the contrary. Because to the contrary, the evidence says that black men are good providers, black men are great protectors. But the problem is there's a percentage of women that equivocate every man to the trauma and the pain that they went through. And because of that, guys, it's a thinking error called overgeneralization due to the concept of clinical projection. And that's why, guys, these conversations become lost. And let me tell you something. I think the reason why they do it, guys, we got a show coming up with Real Bravado Network, him and I, take heed to the message and a few more. But in the clinical world, we got a concept called Munchausen by proxy. It's called Munchausen by proxy. And it's called Munchausen by proxy, guys, because of this. I'm going to break it down. Some women feel good when it makes them feel empowered when they become the victim instead of evolving out of their victimhood. It makes them feel empowered when they are victims and make them feel empowered when they are victims. And some of it, guys, is projecting out of fear because they know that men are physically superior to them. And by and large, American men have been conditioned to be very docile and kind to their women. To the point, this ongoing cycle and this ongoing denigration of black men in the echelons or in the encapsulation of a man called Mr. is the perpetuation of all black men. To the good men that made good choices, he's Mr. To the blue-collar man that's made good choices, he's Mr. To the white-collar black man, he's Mr. And every man that broke their heart in college, the men that left them, the men that they wanted, which were the top-tier men versus the average guys that they rejected, those men, guys, are still Mr. And guys, that's mental illness. That's unresolved trauma. These women many times project out of fear, and some have penis envy, and it leads to internalization and introjection. But in the meantime, guys, special shout out to the brothers that have shown some love on tonight. My man, The Quiet Storm, a heavy hitter on the night. Shout out to my man, Eric Hall. Eric, I'm going to drop you that link in a minute, brother. We're going to break this thing down. Let me warm it up a little bit, and we're going to break it down. But special shout out to my man, Eric Hall, with the 10. He said, let's go to work. This is going to be a great breakdown, no doubt. Shout out to my man, Eric Hall, for the 10. And Eric, that's a deal, right? I appreciate it,
right?
Thank you, brother.
Right? That's a deal, right?
That's a deal, right?
That's
Thank you, sir.
right?
I appreciate
That's
it.
a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Got 5 on it.
And then also shout out to the #1 sponsor of the stream with the $100 hitter, my man, the International Quiet Storm, showing love on the night as that brother always support me and show me love. You know, guys, I don't know if I would do these shows because it takes so much work to put these shows together. But men like the International Quiet Storm, my brother Eric Hall, Gregory Scotland, many more, they help me in my struggles as I seek to empower Black men. But the International Quiet Storm said this: for tonight's therapy session, the Brothers of Machismo TV backs and supports all the incredible work of the Culture Clinician does for Black men as a whole. I appreciate it. This channel will be protected until the end of its lifespan, no doubt. And the Quiet Storm, because of your love offering and Machismo and all the brothers that show love, you are the #1 sponsor of this stream. You are the #1 sponsor of this stream, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir, for your love and your support. The Quiet Storm, you're the #1 sponsor. Thank you, sir.
It's the money.
The brothers are showing love on tonight, guys. The brothers are showing love. Shout out to my man, the Real Bravado Network, guys. An epic show that we're going to have at some point. Brother Eric, I sent you the link to Messenger on Facebook. I will bring you on in a few minutes, but I want to break down the show a little bit. But I'm going to bring you on, Brother Eric. But shout out to my dear friend, the Real Bravado Network, for the $50 hitter. This is what Real Bravado said. He said, if y'all think this breakdown is going to be epic, wait till you see what the Kosher Clinician got for you on Monday evening, no doubt. Kosher have been tasked with the major topic of this epic joint, and that's a deal, right? No doubt, brother. I appreciate it. Much love to my man on Real Bravado Network. And brother Real Bravado, that's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? And I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for the $50 hitter. Thank you, brother. Much love and blessing.
That's a deal, right? That's a deal,
and we're
right?
going to psychoanalyze this thing in a minute as the brothers are showing love on tonight. But we're going to psychoanalyze this thing, guys, because for the last 50 years or more, the image of the Black man has been under attack. And I count on an honor to spearhead this initiative with Real Bravado Network, guys. So once again, guys, we're going to have an epic joint. It's going to be epic. And once the guys tune in, because me, Real Bravado Network, take heed to the message, and many others are going to attack this very nebulous topic.
Word on the streets? Get ready for an epic joint live stream event. Join us as we bring together the powerhouses of live streamers. Messy Mashan Live? This might be risky. The Culture Clinician. Take heed to the message. Real Bravado Network, Black Man Unfiltered, Painful Excellence Podcast, and Harmonize 78. We are expecting other high-profile guests. Together, we're diving deep into the controversial cinematic update of The Color Purple. It's a no-holds-barred discussion with a burning question: was the film the original attack on the black male image of America? A first-of-its-kind, epic live joint stream. This is more than just a question. It's a riveting exploration of perspectives so potent it will shatter and reshape everything you thought you knew about this cinematic saga. This isn't just an event. It's a groundbreaking, eye-opening odyssey into the depths of film critique and social commentary. Don't just watch. Be a part of a systemic shift in understanding. December 18th, 7:30 p.m. Central. Set your reminders. Word on the streets. Don't miss this.
All right, guys, we're going to get back into it. But one will argue, guys, if you think I'm right, one will argue that this Color Purple narrative has shaped the denigration of Black men. And once again, guys, it's through a process called projection. And so, Koshabot, many don't know what projection is. And so, Koshabot, break it down one more time, Koshabot, for the masses, because we're going to get deep into it. And so, Koshabot, what is projection?
Kosher bot. Load the machine.
Yes, Master Kosher at your service, right away.
Projection and introjection are two psychological defense mechanisms that people use to cope with difficult emotions and thoughts. These mechanisms serve as ways to deal with overwhelming feelings by either attributing them to others or internalizing them. Projection involves unconsciously attributing one's own unacceptable feelings or thoughts to someone else. For example, imagine someone who feels jealous of a friend's success but is unable to admit it to themselves. Instead, they might project their jealousy onto their friend and start believing that their friend is envious of them. In this way, they are displacing their own feelings onto someone else, which allows them to avoid facing and dealing with their own emotions. On the other hand, introjection involves unconsciously internalizing the qualities or beliefs of someone else. This can occur when individuals adopt the values, opinions, or behaviors of others without critical evaluation. For instance, if a person idolizes a famous celebrity and starts imitating their lifestyle choices, this could be a result of introjection. Both projection and introjection can be seen as protective mechanisms, as they allow individuals to distance themselves from uncomfortable thoughts or feelings. However, relying too heavily on these defense mechanisms can be detrimental to personal growth and relationships. It is important to note that these defense mechanisms often operate at an unconscious level, meaning individuals may not even be aware that they are using them. Becoming aware of these patterns can be a starting point for self-reflection and personal development. By recognizing and taking responsibility for their own emotions and thoughts, individuals can work towards a healthier and more authentic way of relating to themselves and others.
All right, guys, Brother Eric going to join me in a minute, guys. But once again, the world has been shaped by the color purple narrative. And see, this shaping, guys, have kept black men in a state of suspended animation where they're constantly bojangling. They're constantly on the plantation mentally where they're bojangling like Mr. Bojangles from the past because they're constantly trying to prove that they didn't hurt black women. They're trying to prove that they are worthy. But the more they bojangle and try to appease those women, like the slaves on the plantation, the more and the further they get down the rabbit hole. And I got a dear friend of mine that was a friend or a close ally with Kevin Samuels. And my man Eric Hall and I are going to break this thing down about the bojangling of the black man, but also the color and purpling of the black man as it relates to how we were shaped and formed in the past. Without further ado, my man Eric Hall in the house, a Kevin Samuels friend, disciple. And guys, we're going to break it down. Brother Eric, how you doing, sir?
Let me take myself off mute. Yeah, I'm doing outstanding. How about you, Kosher? Can you hear me?
Doing great. Doing great, brother. It was a pleasure to meet you when we were out in Atlanta as we had the Black Manosphere Conclave. For so many years, Brother Eric, so many men or so many black men have been denigrated. They've been shamed into silence. They've more or less been shamed into mediocrity. What are you getting out of this conversation about the color purpling of the black man and the denigration of black men in general?
Well, again, it's an argument in bad faith in the sense that just even with my own family, I had my other aunt, they just celebrated, this is the fourth couple they celebrated 50 years plus of marriage. And so when you see that dynamic of men doing what they're supposed to be doing, then that narrative doesn't necessarily fit. And then also, too, we look at the 80-20-20 rule, right. As women have become liberated, they can pick and choose their mate. And sometimes men are not in the household. Back at other times, I still laugh about this story. About when my father asked my grandfather for my mother's hand in marriage. So what happens is the vetting process is not there. And then people are free to pick and choose the type of men that they want. And when they do that, sometimes these men are not going to be the best of characters. But from a statistical standpoint, I look at even from a base where there's no laws to protect women, right? So I look at Africa, the South America, those type of places, right? You don't see men in mass driving their women out the house just because it's Monday. You don't see them say, okay, I'm tired of you, get out because it's Monday, right? And that's the kind of narrative that Color Purple brings, in the sense that it just makes men as evil guys. And then if you even think back to the movie itself,
Right.
there was no intelligent men in that film, no competent men in that film. Every man had a major character flaw, whether it was laziness or foolishness, as it came to Harpo. Mister, had a drinking problem, as well as he was abusive. His father was just, quote unquote, an old fool. All right. Even the man, even Suge Avery's dad, he was portrayed as someone who was unforgiving. And then the guy who ended up marrying her, he even had a scene where he was drunk and acting a fool and whatnot as well too. So there was no real positive portrayals of any men of substance in that particular movie. And so when we look at the media and look at what's going forward, is they perpetuated that, in that I don't want to end up like Celie. I don't want to end up like Sophia. Like, I don't want to end up like that. So they assume and perceive that men are going to behave like that. And, you know, I grew up in the South, came up in the 80s and 90s. And in that particular space, we were like, okay, we were trying so hard to prove that we weren't like that, right? We're different. We're not the same. And as I had gotten older, I've discovered that's just not something I choose to do, and not something I want to do, because even if you do everything right, as it relates to women, if they don't feel like it's right, then 99 good things, that one thing that's the issue, is going to get magnified. So.
Yeah. And brother Eric, I'm going to assume you're Gen X. Are you Gen X?
Yeah, I'm in my 40s.
You're in your 40s, right? So you and I are both Gen X. Let me ask you a question. You know, there's an old saying that says how good it is for the brethren to deal together in unity. And you and I were part of the generation where we saw so many black men. I mean, you could have been a good guy. You seem like you're a straight-laced guy. But every black man got truncated to being Mr. Have you experienced that in dating? Have you experienced that in relationships?
Not necessarily Mr. in a sense that, again, like the character I see of Mr. is someone who's that is abusive. And if you're like a man who doesn't show aggression like that, then, you know, that's never really applied to me. But I know, like, even you get some tests and they say, well, I want to see how it's going to be when you get mad. I want to see this, or I want to see that. And I will say this, right? Just in my family alone, like, the women are well behaved. Yeah, they do what they're supposed to do. When I say they're supposed to do, they're not entering into these type of situations in bad faith. I just had a cousin, I want to say probably 2 years ago, or maybe a year ago, she just celebrated her anniversary. So she's been married 2 years. She's in her 30s. She's a little bit of a bigger woman. Her husband was as well too. But the point is, like, people who operate in good faith, they can find positive outcomes of what they can. So I've seen that, and that's why I want to say, is like, it's not just all things out there, but outside of that, I see that dynamic go on in how people behave. And also too, when you get to our age, you get to see the full cycle of a woman. And what I mean by the full cycle is, when you're young, you haven't seen everything, right? And so, for example, you see that girl who you went to school with, you saw how she carried herself, you saw how she behaved, and you're like, okay, maybe she'll grow out of that, and she doesn't. And then you see her at 30, 35, 30, 40, and you see her having the negative outcomes from that behavior that she was doing at a young place, right? And so I guess even with me, because the ladies around me, they were, I guess, well, if you want to say honorable, I kind of went into situations thinking that, but now I've seen the full cycle, so I'm a little bit more cautious. I pay a little bit more attention to those types of things.
Yeah, it sounds like to me you think they have a state of arrested development. You know, they could be chronologically one age, but it appears, brother Eric, that they have a state of arrested development. And I think some of it, Eric, is this. I think part of it is that they are fearful of black men and men in general because of their physical size. I think some love being the victims. I think some love being victims. It makes them have power in a state of victimhood. Because in the West, men have been conditioned to placate to the whims of women. But by and large, I would say men now are weaker than your grandfather, your great-grandfather, and your dad. Men of those generations were cut from a different cloth. But let me ask you a question. What were the narratives and the stories that you heard about the so-called the so-called black man being abusive, hurting their women, cheating? Because this is what I want to concede to the floor in this concept. The behaviors that a lot of black men exhibited in the past, let's say they were physically abusive, they drank alcohol, or they were cheaters. It's not endemic to the black man. It's all men have done that in the past. But also those behaviors that were associated with black men many times, Eric, was a byproduct of their own traumas too. And they did not cope with those traumas in a healthy way. But what I'm saying is this: when it comes down to the traumas of black men, no one cares about the traumas of black men, their struggles and their stories. It's often minimized. But when it comes down to the traumas of our women or women in general, all the attention supposed to be given to them. So it's almost like, Eric, some people like attention that's either negative or they like positive attention. I'm not here to minimize a woman that's been abused, but we know that the physical and domestic violence is bi-directional. Women tend to initiate it and men finish it. But they love to paint through a concept called overgeneralization all black men in this negative light as being monsters, as being the boogeyman, and it's constantly perpetuated in the media that men are abusive. I've listened to Ebony K. Williams, and I think you sent me a clip. We'll look at that in a minute. And she was saying something about when ain't no woman can't be relying on no man. And so they don't come in with their guard down. They come in with their guard up, which in essence prevents them from having true intimacy. And so every man, based on the hurt that they've dealt with, they see it through the lens and the vein of trauma. What do you say about that?
Well, two things, right? So there's some justification or validation to people being fearful in general, because we live in this time. But the second thing is you got to look at someone's MO or their pattern. If they keep repeating this same cycle where they go through this, they go through this, and go through this, and then it ends right here, and they keep doing that, then that's someone who's caught in a pattern or a loop that's not very successful or beneficial to them in that particular space. And so when we talk about people playing victims and doing those types of things is, okay, when they were young or when other things happen, how did they get attention, right? A funny story is like when someone as a child, they got attention for making people laugh. Okay, there's a future comedian. When someone who got attention every time they hurt themselves, there's someone who trauma bonds. When someone got attention when they made a good grade or did well, there's someone who's a high achiever. So these people, not when I say these people who are caught up in certain patterns, that's how they deem themselves to get attention. Now, the issue or the challenge is, I agree with you that black men in particular, men in general, their traumas, their thoughts, they're not really heard just because the perception of that, whereas society in general is catered around the emotions, thoughts, and feelings of women. Right. And so when they are not getting what they want, then maybe they exude a behavior with respect to help them get attention, whether that's real or not real, right? Whether the experience is actually real or not, they know, oh, well, Sally got attention because she talked about what her husband did. So I want attention like that. And I laugh because when we think back to women who get BBLs or get things, they see one woman got that and then they copycat on that to try to get the same outcome. And that's not always something that's beneficial or actually happens the way they thought or perceived to be.
You know, Brother Eric, you was a good friend of Kevin Samuels. He often talked about the black male image. And we're going to get into it in a minute, but we're going to talk about the conclave real quick. But in the meantime, I'm going to play this clip, and then we're going to talk about it, about what Kevin Samuels meant to you, the conclave, and the black male image.
Ma'am, book a session.
Why do you think a woman who is an average looking, below average physicality, below average weight, can sit around talking about they're going to hold out. Or wait, what are you waiting for? The answer is what many are waiting for is a sucker. They're waiting for somebody to go ahead and say, you know what? Even though you got 200,000 miles on you and had a couple of wrecks, I'm going to go ahead and pay brand new prices for it.
And we know that Kevin Samuels wasn't the only one talking about this. He was definitely one of the forerunners, but Black Ram for years have talked about female nature. I've been a fan of Black Ram for years. Shout out to Black Ram. The Angry Man that talked about it in part. Kevin Samuels, Tom Likas, and many, many others. Tommy Sotomayor probably one of the original OGs. But this victim mindset, I call them trauma queens, where they see everything through a cycle of victimhood. And it goes back to what you were saying. There's a medical term called Munchausen by proxy. Are you familiar with that term? Munchausen by proxy?
No, I'm not familiar with that, but you can go ahead and explain it to me.
And so Munchausen by proxy was turned to factious disorder. And basically what it means, they will fake illness in order to get attention. They fake being sick when their children are sick, or they fake illness in order to get attention. And once again, I'm not saying that some of the things these women have experienced is not real, but they always see men do this negative being. Men are just always the boogeyman. And the conversation you had with Kevin, he talked about the color purpling of America. What did you get from his concepts when he talked about that and the bojangling of the American black man?
Well, as he talked about with color purple, it was more so, as you and I chatted earlier, is the black and white of relationships, where people say, either I'm supposed to be by myself or deal with an abusive man, or deal with the man who cheats, or deal with the man who gambles, drinks, all those types of things. And it was pretty much an argument in bad faith that there is only two extremes. It's either by myself or bad, nothing in between. And so when he and I were talking, just in general, when we talk, or when he would make a different statements, he said, okay, that's one example, but I can show you examples of people who have been married from 57 all the way down to 10 to whatnot, and they don't deal in those realities. And so when a person enters into a situation of bad faith, then they're moving towards or expecting that outcome. I think about driving on the car. You just drive within 2-inch lines, but there's accidents, things of that nature that happen every day, but people don't focus on that. I don't know. I hear music coming in, so I don't know if that's
you're good.
Okay.
You good, brother.
Okay. Yeah. So, it's just the thought of operating good faith and rewarding bad behavior. We see, and we've heard it going back to Tupac, where he said when he behaved to act a certain way, he got different outcomes from women. And even some of the pickup artists, those types of individuals, they do those things to attract, and that's what certain things that women respond to. So it used to be you could go be nice to a lady, tell her, straight up how you feel, that you like her, and then you can move forward. But now it's not like that. So you got, the game has changed, and people have to operate with that. The men are operating differently, and the women, I think they're going to need to catch up. I think it's going to be painful, but I think they're going to need to catch up as well too.
When you say operate differently, what does that mean to you? Because it appears that they love the good lies. They love the good lies. They love the good lies because, Kevin tried to tell them the truth. I'll try to tell them the truth through a clinical perspective. But folks don't want the truth, and many use our women, not all sisters. There's some wild sisters in my chat that are listening, but they use them, Brother Eric, to keep them in a state of arrested development. Tell me in situations where you've seen women being victims of the good lie, because once again, Oprah Winfrey in the beginning told the good lie, and once again it had black men bojangling like Mr. Bojangles from the past. Sally Jesse Raphael told the good lie, but also Ricky Lake, she told the good lie, because they took all black men based on their experience of the worthless black men that hurt them, and they equivocated all black men as the small percentage of the men in their lives that emitted trauma and pain to them. And it's dangerous because perception, Brother Eric, is reality. What do you say about that?
Well, I mean, a perfect example is Lori Harvey. All right, this is a young lady. I think she's under 30. She's an attractive lady. I won't take that from her. But then you talk about how she jumps lily pad to lily pad. And I was telling someone, Michael B. Jordan, that's going to be the last man to take her serious, because what did he essentially do wrong? Nothing, right? And so they were saying, oh, she's living her best life. She wants to act like men. Okay. Well, one personally, because as an image consultant, I look at what people's outcomes and what they want. I personally don't know what she wants out of life. So it's hard for me to analyze what outcome that she wants. I don't know if she wants to have a man, have children, or whatever, or she just wants to do that till she's 90. I don't know. All right. But the thing is, like, when she's getting attention and she's getting, okay, I see people giving me attention in this way, and not realizing there's a difference between attention because I'm genuinely interested in wanting to get to know you and maybe having a relationship with you, or sexual attention. All right. And so the sexual attention, that brings quick things, quick dates, quick money, quick gift, quick trips, but it brings longer and slower problems and challenges. And that's one way, or one area where I've seen it manifest in general. But I mean, you step outside your house, you see people behaving badly, mainly because we live in a culture now where I can go open a TikTok or social media, and I can do something now and get likes. And so it's like some people feel like being average, being normal, that's not enough. So they have to continue to go to extremes to get the likes, get the attention. And that's why they continue to perpetuate that. And so you have a generation of women who were raised, and maybe one or two did experience that, but now everybody wants to have that as their experience, right? Like, I mean, men, we do it too, to a different extent. I might say, yeah, Kosher, my dad got 2 trucks. You might say, well, my dad got 3 trucks. My dad got 4. We doing that like that. But again, that's the cycle I see. Whereas in that instance, they're not brought to reality. They're not brought to see the challenges that they see, or that's really going on with that.
And you know, it's so much arrested development and so much lack of maturity, to the point men are saying, you know what, it's not even worth talking to the typical modern woman. We know that there are some good women. Your mother is one. My mom is a good woman overall. You know, she got her flaws like everybody else, but I think she's a better woman than these modern women. Some of the women in the chat that are listening are good women. But tell me your struggles. Tell me the struggles that you've seen, Brother Eric, in the dating world with women that are victims of arrested development. When you try to show them the evidence, they constantly reject or propel what you're trying to tell them.
Well, it's essentially, we go back to that software or that programming, right? So if you put a CD in, it's going to play on that, right? Until we scratch that CD up or change it out, it's going to run that same thing, right? Now, we in 2023, I don't know people still buying CDs, but because we using digital, but they're using that old software, trying to apply that to something more modern. And so just in general, like you're a clinician. So you see, whether it's men, women, but we're talking specifically about women now, you see people have difficulty changing. People have difficulty breaking out of their comfort zone. People have difficulty learning something new. And even one thing Kevin said, when you meet someone, they're making assessments in 7 seconds.
Right.
And people will do more to prove their initial assessment of you correct than take on new information and learn something new. And we see that not just necessarily in the relationship world, but the sports world, other areas as well too. Because I think in this society, people have been allowed to live in a delusional life, regardless of because one, from a power standpoint, it's easier to control and manipulate people who don't know the truth,
right,
and don't seek the truth,
right.
So if I tell you what to believe, then I can control your life.
Yes, sir. Right. And you know, Kevin and many other men, you know, we tell them the truth because we care about them. But you know, it's consistent with theology. Theology said that in the last days they would not love the truth. They don't love the truth. You know, every time I do shows like this, man, my subscriber shop, which I don't care because I'm going to keep telling the truth. But the numbers will start dropping. You're better off telling them lies, man, than telling them truth. But what I'm not going to allow is allowing the denigration of the image of black men. You are an image consultant, and you know the importance of image. When you think about Mr. Bojangles and him being, in my mind, a new man, and he tap danced for the white man, do you see a lot of black men tap dancing to get the favor of black women? We call them simps. And we know simping is at an all-time high too. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, we see it because, again, in their mind, it gets them favor, whether it's if you a jawline dude, because being an ugly simp, it don't help you get big money like the Derrick Jacksons, the Steve Harveys, those types of individuals. So some of these individuals who are simp and do, try to pander, are they really doing it because that's what they believe? Or are they doing it because they want, like the people on the other side, they want some level of attention? All right. And then on top of that, are they living that life? Because we see these simps or people who behave like that outside of Steve Harvey. He the only one married, right? Who's in a semi long-term relationship, right? And there's a couple of them out there too who want to be judgmental of other individuals. Whereas I say this, right? I'm not the D police. I don't worry about what other people do. Now, as an image consultant, if people want to get certain outcomes, I help them do that. But if a person says, hey, I want to date this person, oh, go do it. If a person says, hey, I want to date that person, go do that. But it's so many who try to say, well, you shouldn't do this, kosher. You should date this woman, or you should do that. Why are you so concerned about what the next man doing, right? And so these simps, they like to pander to women in hopes that they'll get finances or access to the body. And but the thing is, you can't control biology. Can't do it.
What did Kevin Samuels mean to you, brother?
Well, I mean, my perspective on Kevin is a lot different than other individuals, just because we had a friendship, and he was like a brother to me, like big brother, little brother. We shop, do other stuff, and just have different types of dialogue about life, dialogue about people, dialogue about fun stuff. And so I was around, knew him before like the rise that everyone saw, but he was just a person to me. And it's weird because now I think like, cause Kobe passed and people hold him like this level and not thinking about how his life and his other impact affected his wife, his parents, his daughter. And that's kind of like the perspective that I have with him, in a sense that he did a lot of amazing things. But if he was around here, we would be going back and forth like I'm the only son. But if we were, two brothers where they mess with each other, they hate each other, that's what we would do. And so that's how my relationship dynamic was with him. Always supported him. We've had times where we didn't disagree. We got into disagreements. And I think that's part of how friends and people interact like that.
Yes, sir.
But, nothing but the utmost for him.
Right. When you saw so many black women celebrate his demise, Ebony K. Williams is one of them. She said, we're not going to celebrate mediocrity. What's your take on this woman that's, she appears to somewhat get it, but she really still don't get it. And she doesn't get it because men are not concerned about your social market value as much as they are your sexual market value. Women always confuse their sexual market value with their social market value, and they keep equivocating the two as being the same, and they're not. You could be a woman that make $400,000 a year, $300,000. You could be well off. You can have a house in the Hamptons. That's all fine and good, but watch this. You're older. You got trauma from dealing with a bunch of men. You're not feminine. 9 times out of 10, she probably been ran through, because most of them ran through. And so at the end of the day, what is that man getting, Eric? What is he getting? And so they think that because they have social market value, just like the woman average at best, they think that means they're supposed to get the top tier men. But I consider you a high value man or a top tier man. I don't think Eric is looking for a woman that's Ebony K. Williams' age, that's masculine, that's broken. I'm going to assume that you're looking for a woman that's cooperative. So if you you're a single man, what are you looking for in a wife and a woman versus women like Ebony K. Williams, brother Eric?
Well, I'm gonna address two things. One, like when people celebrated that, it was like hurtful for me just because like some people's like, okay, this is a celebrity, whereas that's my friend, right? And so I know for me, during that time I had to stay off certain things. And the same is true with the family and individuals like that. When it comes to individuals like Ebony K. Williams, it's a couple things that she showed. Like I sent you a clip earlier, and I know we're gonna talk about it.
We can talk about it.
But the issue with Ebony K is she's masculine, and when I say masculine, it doesn't matter that you wear a dress, because I think Cardi B, she wears nothing but dresses, but I find her to be masculine. And so the thing about Ebony K. Williams, she talks about money, she talks about things like that, right? And even one thing Kevin said, there's a difference between money when you make it in the regular world and when you make money as an entertainer. I know she's a lawyer, but to me, she's an entertainer. So her money is different, right? How she gets her money is different. And then the other thing she's saying is, she doesn't say any of her endearing qualities like, okay, I'm gonna be feminine, I'm gonna be caring, I'm gonna be nurturing. She wants to be a mother. I know she's doing her whatever in vitro frozen eggs, whatever that thing is. But she doesn't seem to me as like someone to be pleasant around anyway. I don't see anything pleasant about her, right? She's always, I want to be right. She's always being combative. She calls people mediocre, where she could technically be considered mediocre.
Oh, she is mediocre.
I'm not even talking about looks wise. I'm talking about career wise. Okay, you make $500,000, right? Well, people who play on the Mark Cuban level, the Michael Jordan level, the LeBron James level, they just made $500,000 just to play in the play-in tournament. So even on that scale, to us regular folks, yeah, she's exceptional. But in the world she tried to play in, she don't have Rihanna money, she don't have Beyonce money, she don't have Venus money, she don't have Serena money. So in that world, she's below. We just talking about finances, which is something that she gears a lot on. All right. And so she doesn't show me anything that makes me want to say I want to be around her a long time, right? We got family members who just unpleasant. That's how she seems. Is she successful? Yeah. Is she okay looking? Yeah. But she just doesn't seem pleasant.
Yeah. And you know, the thing with her, man, she's hell bent on denigrating the average black man. You know, she talked about you know, the bus driver, you know, you don't make enough money or whatever. But I think black men have been so used to seeing themselves as less than, they see women like Ebony K. Williams as being exemplars of femininity, and she's not. Ebony K. Williams will be a nobody in a foreign country. The men that would use her for her money and her prestige. She would be a nobody in South America. She'd probably be like a 4 in South America. She would be a nobody in Africa, and she'd probably be a nobody in some of the other countries when it comes down to femininity and looks. Now, her social market value is one thing, but everything else, you know, well, I mean, your best years are gone, man. You're old. You know, your peak fertility years are over. And many of them cannot grasp it. And I'm gonna tell you something. I think a lot of it, Eric, is that they love having power over black men. I think it makes them feel powerful when they have power over black men. I think some love looking their nose down on less than black men. What's your take on that?
Well, so here's the thing, right? Like with her, and you can see other people who are wealthy, but mainly this is her, right? Some people, they use their money and their wealth as a form of control. And me personally, like I said, I'm all about making money. So everybody get their money. I don't knock her for what this or that or what not. Right. But men don't value status the same way women do, right? And so they have come up in a sense that they say, okay, if you do A, B, C, and D, you're gonna get this because one, I saw that's what men do, right? And I see men act and be like this, whereas men are attracted by the opposite of what women are attracted by. A man, he can be a millionaire, and the barista at Starbucks, she's beautiful, she's nice, she's caring. He go marry her and want to be with her. And so she just, to me, again, and I only know her previous fiance and their dating situation, right? And even some of the things she said, where she said, I've dated them all. Well, what is it about you that makes you not pleasant, right? And even now she's like, oh, no, I purposely decided to have this baby by myself and live that life. Because even in that clip, she said, most important things to me is maintaining my career and freedom, not having to depend on someone, and being able to live the life that I want to live. All those things are great and dandy, but that doesn't make for a good wife. Well, depending on the type of man that you want, it doesn't make for that. And also, I would question like the type of friend she is to people as well too.
Yeah. She comes off as having I'm not gonna say pretentious, but her energy is very off-putting, very off-putting, very cantankerous. And I'm going to argue that she even herself, Brother Eric, have lived through some level of vicarious trauma, because they always use that abuse narrative. Always, the daddy was abusive, granddad was abusive, grandfather cheated. But they never take the time to understand why or what made grandfather do some of those things. And once again, those issues were not endemic only to black men. But the fact is, when they talk about the cheating, well, there were many women that were cheating when men went overseas. They cheated and had sex with other men and created babies. But we don't talk about that. We don't talk about the women that minimized and emasculated their husbands. We don't talk about that. But everything is always through the lens on the abuse of trauma. And it appears to me, Brother Eric, they love being victims. What's your take on that?
Well, again, I go back to my original point, which gets them kind of inclusive into certain things, right? So, for example, you and me as men, how do we get included into certain things? By being productive, by producing, by winning, by creating, by doing those things. That's how we get to higher levels of, different, whether it's our business, whether it's around other men. It's like, okay, I want to be around men who's movers and shakers. I want to be around men who's producing. I want to be around positive brothers. That's how we bond. Okay, you bought this boat, I'm gonna jump on your boat. I bought this plane, we're gonna go fly. That's how we bond. Whereas in certain instances with them, that's how they bond, and that's how they kind of one up her, because I want to have this story. This girl, she go buy some tits, she want to go buy some bigger ones, or she because they want to compete with each other. And when they see that one person got sympathy for this, they want to be a part of that particular club that allows them to have this thing. Just like when you have women out here who are saying, no, I have a good man, I had a good father, the men in my life are great. What happens with them? Some of those are shunned, right? Because they're doing, I get like, they may see it as easy, but it's the hard work to be better in those instances where it's easy for them to go over here and do that, right? So let's just say I want to have the tallest building in the country, right?
Right.
I can do two things. I can build my building, study, examine it, learn, grow, and make that building the best structure in the country. Or the buildings that are okay and bigger than mine, I can go and chop those down. So they're taking that easy route of chopping those other things down to make them feel, I guess, better about themselves, their situation, those type of things. And this is not necessarily unique to women. I know we're talking about women in general in this particular space, but even when we talk about the simps and other people, instead of them saying, okay, I'm gonna get my money right, I'm gonna get my fitness up, I'm gonna get my other charm and other things, instead of doing that, I want to tear these other individuals down to make myself look good. And that's what they're doing. And that's why the simp and that woman are perfect partners in that instance, but they typically not attracted to them. But that's another story altogether.
Right. And I've always said, Brother Eric, that she only respects power and strength. Women, by and large, respect power and strength. We're going to get deep into this narrative in a minute. But in the meantime, shout out to my man Top Gun showing love on the night. He said, when the gray streaks and the menopause mustache starts to grow, that's when they say reality sets in. How ironic is it that most of these selfish heathens end up by themselves in the end?
That's a bad right.
That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Thank you, Top Gun, for the 10. I appreciate it, sir.
That's a
Thank
deal,
you
right?
for that 10. Shout out to my man Triple X. He said, hey guys, media using black women targeting the black man was obvious when Oprah backstabbed and turned her back on Michael Jackson. It was so blatant. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But what do you think about what Top Gun said and then also what Triple X said? I want you to expound on that.
All right, so Top Gun, like we talk about the streaks and menopause. Well, here's the thing, right? It's just like things are cyclical, right? And we have to see the full cycle. So, for example, you plant stuff, it starts to sprout, you harvest it, then you have winter, and then you go back through that process again, right? And so now, and if you didn't plant good things, when you come up for the harvest, you may have some okay things, but will that last you through the winter?
Right.
So right now, they're kind of reaping what they've sown, which is not really, it hasn't really gotten to that point yet. But what's going to happen come winter, right? When, because here's the way I look at it. It's a lot of people who say, I don't need men. That's them, right? But when the ish hits the fan, right? And I think we're going to be coming up on times like that, whether it's financial, whether it's national disaster. Who are you gonna call when you hear that knock at your door, or somebody coming to get you, right? Who coming to get you, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a mate. It could be a family member, right? Because I have women in my family who've chosen not to get married, have children, but there's men around them, uncles, brothers, whatever. We gonna look out for them, right? But when you have a group of women who alienated their sons and boys, right? And then they didn't decide to connect with men and just want to shun that. Okay, well, eventually, the bill is gonna come due. We see that where people say, "Oh, why am I not protected? Why didn't someone come and help me? Why didn't someone say that? Why didn't someone intervene?" Because these are the results of what you have sown. All right. So now, when these challenges come up, that's what's gonna go up. And so, like Top Gun said, they're gonna be by themselves. And some people, they may say, okay, it's okay to be by myself. Well, that's easy, right? Like, I don't know. I've done some daring things, right? So I've gone skydiving before, right?
Right.
And I was like, when I'm going through like the safety checks, how to feel, I said, yeah, it's easy to be strong and talk when I'm safely on the ground. But how it's gonna be when I'm up, when I go up there? It's just like you a big guy. It's easy for me to say what I'm gonna say here, because I ain't. But when I'm in face to face with someone like you or Charles Faulkner, that's a whole different situation, right? So now the talk, we're in the yapping stage. They're doing the yapping. So let's see how they behave when they're 50, 60, 70.
Right.
And they actually do have to deal with that possibility. It's easy now. It's easy when you're young and pretty. It's easy even for someone like Ebony. She like, okay, let's look at something, right? Things could change. Like, she has her judicial show, right? I don't know if she will get to where she was like Judge Judy, doing that as an old man. I mean, excuse me, as an old woman. Mm-hmm. I don't know. She's doing this pregnancy journey. I don't know if that, like, because again, she's got all these plans. What happens if something goes astray? Not necessarily from a financial standpoint, where, okay, being a mother, it makes you do certain things. It makes you want to do this. It makes you want to do that. And things change. Like, how are you going to handle those dynamics? And so in the end, we're going to see what it's like, because a lot of them, they're not good friends to men, and they're also not good friends to other women.
Right.
And so they may truly be by themselves.
Right. And you know what? Some of them sadly deserve to be by themselves. Because Ebony won't, there are men that will marry Ebony. I would never marry, even if I was a janitor, because she her ego. I'm not impressed by a woman like Ebony K. Williams. She went to my alma mater, UNC Chapel Hill. But I don't want a woman like that. She got a lot of baggage. I don't care how much money she make. I'm not impressed by her looks. I'm not gonna be in no relationship where a woman thinks she gonna denigrate me and say, we're gonna be partners because you're not my partner, you're my wife. I don't believe in no partnership. It's no such thing as a partner, because you and I could be business partners. You and Kevin Samuels could have been business partners. You guys co-equally had a responsibility in that business. But what I see a lot of times in therapy and many modern women, they want partnerships when it's beneficial to them, but they want a man to be traditional when it benefits to them. And you can't pick and choose. Jesus said you can't serve two masters. Either you're going to love one and hate the other. And I think the problem now, Brother Eric, is that they're not used to hearing black men finally speak up and speak out against the shenanigans and the BS. We know that many of the men that they got with, some of those men were abusive men. But they chose the bad boys. They chose the high-profile men that blew the backs out and had 20 women on the side, because they are victims of a condition called hypergamy. And I call it carnal hypergamy. They want the best of the best of the best of men. Now, watch this. Carnal hypergamy is it's very exploitative. It comes from the Greek word carne, which means meat. So carnal hypergamy is exploitative. But kosher hypergamy, a term I created both terms. Kosher hypergamy is fit and proper. It don't seek to exploit. Your grandmothers practiced kosher hypergamy. They just wanted a man that was going to be a good provider and a good protector. They didn't put a bunch of qualifiers saying he got to make $120,000 or $500,000 a year, but yet they ran through, can't have kids, got a lot of trauma for messing with so many men. And that's the problem, that part that burns me up. You know, your best years are gone. You're not giving a man anything. You're not giving him youthfulness. You're not giving him fertility. You're not giving him cooperation. Your body's been exploited by multiple men, but you want a man that's worked hard to provide you with this luxury lifestyle. And I would never do it because I know what my worth is. You would never get that. I'm not paying all no damn bills. You be grateful if you get 40 to 50% or 60 paid for. I'll pay all bills or most of the bills for a woman that's a virgin with low bodies and she's wife ready and she's a woman of faith and she's grounded, she's traditional. I'll pay the majority of the bills from that. But the rest of these help is gonna be prorated, man. We're gonna prorate. We're gonna prorate it, brother Eric, because I ain't paying full price, man. But go ahead.
Yeah, so the thing is this, right? I say men should get in a situation that works for them with whatever woman that they choose, whether it's the virgin, whether it's the woman mature. Like I don't de-police in any sense of the word, right? I tell people to do what makes them happy, what puts them in the best situation.
Right.
Different men are gonna have different needs.
I agree.
Okay. So like if you a politician like a president, you're gonna have different needs and expectation of your wife. All right. If you're a pastor, you're going to have different needs and expectation of your wife, such and so forth. All right. Now, back to what you were saying, I'm gonna break it down because you mentioned UNC, and we talk about Ebony K, and she didn't get Rashad McCants, but let's talk about me and you, right? So I don't know if you play basketball. I know you about 6'5", 6'6", right?
Right.
Well, if you and me step on the court, right, you have an advantage, right? Because you're taller. Is that not a true statement?
Yes,
so
in theory it's true.
So it's true. So what do I have to do? I have to be able to handle the ball. I have to be able to shoot. I have to be able to do certain things exceptionally well to make up for the fact that I'm not 6'6". So we talk about people like Nate Robinson, Spud Webb, Muggsy Bogues, Earl Boykins, shorter basketball players. They had to do that, right? And even Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver, he wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the tallest, but he made sure he ran good routes. He made sure he had good hands. He made sure he was in good shape and dependable. So let's take this to this situation right here. If you don't have all the physical advantages, right? And this is something we as men understand. If you don't have all the physical, like you may not be the prettiest, you may have had this or that. Okay. Well, that means you're going to have to make up the difference some other places, right? You're going to have to be exceptional in some other areas that's valuable to the men that you want in order to achieve, that particular outcome. And so with her, it's like, okay, is she overall pleasant? Which I don't see, right?
No, not at all.
So the thing is, you have to make adjustments because even still, things I was able to do basketball wise at 20, I'm not able to do now. So I have to be smarter. I have to be crafty. I have to be other things, right?
Yes,
but
sir.
so trying to play a young man's game as an older person, that's not a recipe for success, right? So in that instance, if a woman is older trying to play a young woman's game, that too is not a recipe for success. So, and I know we just talking about her. Again, I personally, just like after I watched that clip that you and that I sent to you, I see that she don't want no relationship because she want to be the boss, which is fine. But when you get up into that upper echelon, you're not, the people who are successful. Like I know I don't like people to tell me what to do. I'm rebellious. I've always been like that to an extent. So as I get more successful, people get more successful and they've charted their own path, they less than want someone to dictate for them, right? And so that may be also true for her because she makes whatever amount of money that she makes, but the dudes who would deal with her, they're not really going for that. That's not really appealing to them.
Right. And we're gonna look at this Alice Walker brigade as well. But Triple X and Hi Guys media using the black women to target the black man. What's your take on what he said when Oprah Winfrey stabbed and turned her back on Michael Jackson? We're gonna get into that, and it was so blatant. And then we're gonna get into I'm gonna look at some clips about Oprah and how she used the media to denigrate black men, even though she came out later and said something different. But 50 Cent talked about it. But also Ricky Lake and Sally Jesse Raphael. But go ahead, brother.
Well, just as it relates to Oprah, she came down hard on Michael. I don't know all the details, but I know she didn't support him on that. Uh, even to an extent, R. Kelly, some of that he probably deserved. And even I remember even before she didn't want Ludacris on her show as well too, right? But at the same time, it would be different if she was like that across the board, where she was buddy buddy kissy kissy with Harvey Weinstein, who was like a high level of and I think he's been arrested, went to jail or whatnot for some of those same things, right? And people can believe or not believe what they want to about the whole Michael Jackson situation. Zero convictions, no history in that where you can say whatever you want to say about that. Whereas Harvey Weinstein, he has those type of things, and that's shown up. And then also too, for years, Oprah has she's really been, allowed situations where people are hard on black men. She's had that, right? And so I look at who has she made. She made Dr. Phil. She made Dr. Oz. I've met Stedman, but she ain't, I know they've been dating, but she has not elevated him the same way she elevated those other people. And I'm not going to dig deep into her personal life because certain things I don't know, but I just look at the outcomes that I see, and it's not favorable.
Right. I totally agree with you, man. It's not favorable at all. Top Gun said this. He said that sadly there's a young man somewhere sleeping on a woman's couch, eating her kids' snacks, and that would love to simp and cater to Ebony's rhetoric. And I agree with you 100%. And Top Gun, you are dynamite for that five, brother. I appreciate it. 1 million. Right? What's your take on what Top Gun said? And he's correct. It appears that lesser than men, it's almost like the men that they are sexually attracted to, they don't have to do as much. But the average guy that put in work, he got to overextend himself to appease them. And that's why I tell men not to deal with women in the West, because women in foreign countries in general, and we know women are forms that are not perfect, but they're trained to be wives. They value their men more. A man like yourself, man, you're about 6 feet, 6'1". You would be a demigod in many countries. I know you tend to stick with American women, but you would be a demigod in Africa and South America. The women will go crazy over you, brother. And me myself too.
I've been to some of those places, and that is in fact true.
Yes,
and
sir.
I go back to, again, like just like they focus on their resume to get a job. Well, you have a spouse resume, right? And so let's just say having 2-parent household. That's almost like the equivalent to going Ivy League over here, right? Not to say you can't be successful if you didn't do that, but that's like the equivalent, right? Having low body count, having good relationships with men in your life, and those are things that make you more attractive in that particular market. And so when we talk about other women, other cultures, again, is how are they raised and what are their stories and what are their interactions with people? In general, I see more community and more communal in those areas, in the way the men interact, the way the women interact, because in those instances, they have to be dependent on one another. The women have to be dependent on the women. They have to be dependent on the others in the community. And they also have to be dependent on the men as well, too, because one thing is we have civilized the West so much. I've been to New York. I've been a lot of different places. And at nighttime, people can walk down the street, men or women, and not worry about it. I see some places, okay, this person walking their dog in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock, whatever, right? Whereas you go some of those other foreign countries, it's like, no, you can't do that. You have to stay in this area. You have to stay in that, right? And so here's the funny thing. Remember how you talked about how powerful and great our grandmothers and some of our mothers were? You know the saying? Hard times make strong people, right? Because they had just come from the Jim Crow, the slavery, all that,
yes,
right?
Sir. Right, yes, sir.
And strong people make weak times, so that brings to like the 1960s and all that. They want to be free. Right. And good times make weak people. So that's where that's the stage that we're in. Not all, but it's like there's a demographic of the population. I mean, I've just been fortunate in a sense in my family life and even seeing friends and people. I've been around some fairly decent women, and I've also been around some not so decent women. So I've seen both sides of the spectrum. So I'm not someone who's black pill, be like, okay, this is the absolute, you go this way or you go that way. Now I'm more someone who's open, and I evaluate situations on a case by case basis.
You know, we talked about earlier about The Color Purple, how Alice Walker movie played a role. A lot of this mess comes from a liberal construct. They talked about intersectionality and all of this stuff. And anytime they talk about intersectionality in you know, it's always the intersectionality of feminism. This intersectionality is also intersection with the Duluth model. That it's always seeing men do a lens of being perpetrators of violence, domestic abuse, or anything. But contrary to the research and contrary to history, men have always put their lives on the line for women and children. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, because we look at Titanic,
We've always
right?
done it. Right.
Yeah, we look at Titanic, and we even look at, in this country, women got a right to vote. Well, if they couldn't vote before, who did it? That means it was some men who were sympathetic and empathetic. And it's funny that men are viewed as not empathetic, whereas a lot of things that happen are because of men understanding and being empathetic to the plight, the understanding, the things that go on of women in general. And so when you look at it through that lens, it's not a situation of all men are bad, right? And then the other thing we have to look at as well too is the 80-20 rule, right? That means a lot of men who are out here are invisible, right? I know you live in North Carolina or in that area, and you went to Chapel Hill. I bet you can tell me the guy who, if you got a store you go to, you can tell me the guy who worked there, because you probably see him all the time. He say, "What's up? I got this right here for you." You could tell me the guys who hang out at the bar. Well, you may not go to the barbershop, but I know I do. But you could tell me the guys who go there. If you go to the gym, you could say, okay, that's the dude who the janitor, who this, right? You ask women, they be like, nah, I don't see them. That person's invisible to me. And so that's who they see. And that's why they could possibly come in their mindset that they group men together, right? Just like they say, well, everybody got kids. Well, how is that true when 51% of black men, or 52, are childless and unmarried? Right? And then you have 30% who are married with children. Another 10%, they may have children. They may have either been in a relationship or divorced. But it's a small percentage of men who's out here making babies and slanging D all the place. Let's look at Cynthia G. She got with a guy who had 5 children, or 4 or 5 children, 4 or 5 baby mamas, right? He's an internet dude. She was in Seattle. She came across the country. Was he a doctor? Are there black doctors, right?
Right.
Was he a lawyer? Are there black lawyers? Right. Was he an engineer? Are there black engineers? Right. So why is it that there's gravitation toward this type of man? I know there's having children and being married, and those things provide a level of social validation, but I can see why, just me being understanding, I can see why they would think all men are like that, because the majority of men, they don't see.
And I think a large correlation of it also, brother, is after the sexual revolution, you start seeing a great disillusionment of so many women. I did a show years ago when I started YouTube, about 3 years ago, that the model woman have been empowered to be depowered. She's been empowered through liberal policies, but on the back end, she's been depowered because the things that other women got from the past, she doesn't have it. But once again, they always tell the story that all men were bad, all men had them barefoot and pregnant. And it goes back to what my man, the Saint and the Sinner, was saying with this woman, can't think of her name, Princella. She's been a trauma victim. And also a trauma queen.
Trying to flip the world upside down. We don't believe you because you're so delusional, and only a broken, traumatized mind gets to a point where you see up as down and left as right. I yield the floor to you. Trying to flip the world upside down. We don't believe you because you're so delusional, and only a broken, traumatized mind gets to a point where you see up as down and left as right. I yield the floor to you. When you say something suggesting that the male is such a primitive sexual being that, as you put it, can't get his mind beyond sex, well, then that would make me question how you're speaking into a microphone, an electronic device, a significant piece of technology that was created by a man. And the architecture that created the building that you're in, probably an apartment, was also created by a man. Most everything that you observe was created by a man. And let me further expose you, because you're a person who actually takes all of your thinking from a man. For example, on your own Instagram, you only have 2 books referenced. They're both written by men, because you come to the man seeking our superior knowledge. Furthermore, even the book that you have in your hand, which you wrote, you modeled the title of that book after a man's book, Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power.
Hold tight.
Word on the streets? Get ready for an epic joint live stream event. Join us as we bring together the powerhouses of live streamers. Messy Michon Live? This might be risky. The Culture Clinician. Take heed to the message. Will Bravado Network. Black Man Unfiltered. Painful Excellence Podcast. And Harmonize 78. We are expecting other high-profile guests. Together, we're diving deep into the controversial cinematic update of The Color Purple. It's a no-holds-barred discussion with a burning question. Was the film the original attack on the black male image of America? A first-of-its-kind, epic live joint stream. This is more than just a question. It's a riveting exploration of perspectives so potent it will shatter and reshape everything you thought you knew about this cinematic saga. This isn't just an event, it's a ground...
Well, let me ask you a question, Eric. Hearing this woman talk out of ignorance, but also not looking at all the accomplishments of mankind, but also the struggles of black men, your grandfather, my grandfather, our ancestors, the men that built the railroads, that built the infrastructure, that gave their lives in World War I, World War II, the Buffalo Soldiers, the black slaves that fought in the Civil War. When you got all the evidence, but they often minimize or denigrate that evidence, and then also the vicious are taught with this Color Purple movie. What's your take on everything? This Priscilla Clark woman, they always see men through the lens of trauma, but also Alice Walker's, and this loaded question, Alice Walker's attack on the image of black men.
Well, so, like, you know, people have different needs. And so this need right here is a need for significance. And so when people drive or driven by their need to feel important, there's nothing wrong with it, but when it gets extreme, they gain their significance by breaking down other people, by harming other images, by as we say, chopping down that building. And so I'm somewhat familiar with the young lady Princella, and even in that instance there, just watching that particular clip, because things are so good, it's easy to take things for granted, right? Like it's just like children. They don't have an idea that we used to have to have a phone with a cord and we have to share that. That's foreign to them, right? They're like, what is that? What is that right there? That's not real to them. And so with someone like her, she has gotten to the illusion of everything is so easy now, right? Because a man didn't create the microphone. I went and got it from Amazon. A man didn't create this space. I had a lady real estate agent who got me this space. They're so far removed from, I guess, the origins and the foundation of how things start and how things are. Just like we talk about basketball, you know, so many people so far from the origins of the foundation of how it got to how it is now, to be disrespectful to the people, the individuals, the situation, the things that have come before who've shaped those things. That's a form of disrespect, and that's a form of ego. Now, because of, again, I'm not necessarily familiar with her lifestyle and those types of things, but because even Ebony Williams, right? Because she's able to be a TV judge. Well, why is she able to be a TV judge? People like Greg Mathis, I can't think of the other black judge, like other judges who were men, they came first, and now she's able to do that.
Right.
And because she, you said she went to North Carolina.
Yeah, she went to law school at UNC. She actually was a lawyer in Durham for a while under Bush Williams.
Okay. And I'm familiar with Willie Gary, who's from that. He went to Shaw up there. Like I got to do some stuff with him. But what I'm saying is, people, they're so removed from how things started is like, oh, this is me, right? I go over here, I turn the light on, not thinking that it was someone who wired this up. No, the light come on because I did it.
Right.
That's like an extreme level of ego and a lack of gratitude and appreciation for other individuals, right? And so when you come from that space and you're in a space where it seems like everything is all you, it's easy to, one, be egotistical if you're not grounded, if no one holds you to account for that, and easy to downplay the contributions of others.
Right. No, I totally agree. I agree with you 100%. I don't know when the war happened, man. Did my super chats disappear? Hold on for a bit. Okay, I see it, man. Like it disappeared on the screen. But anyway. All right. So let's get into this, Eric. I'm going to look at a little bit of this real quick. Let's look at this thing with Oprah. We're going to break this down first, and then we'll go to the next part. And this was Oprah first.
Oprah Winfrey has been trending lately for all the wrong reasons. And after Ice Cube recently revealed he's been banned from the Oprah show, fans pointed out that it was actually 50 Cent who first exposed Oprah years ago for throwing black men under the bus while protecting white predators. 50's feud with Oprah has been going on for years, and 50 never stopped trolling her. In fact, he even named his dog after Oprah and his cat after Oprah's BFF, Gayle King.
That's Oprah.
That's Oprah. Okay. Named after the Oprah, and your cat's name is?
And Gail.
Okay, Gail.
But as funny as 50 is, fans are saying that he's actually speaking facts on Oprah having an agenda against black men, and that Oprah's history of throwing black entertainers under the bus is nothing to laugh about. So what exactly did 50 say about Oprah going after black men? Does she really have an agenda? And is that how she achieved her success? Let's get into it.
I've been excluded on Oprah, you know.
On Oprah?
On Oprah, yeah, I've been excluded.
There's a very loud discussion going on about Oprah.
All right, so real quick, what do you think about what was said, Brother Eric?
Well, again, let's as an image consultant and someone who focuses on outcome, I just went back to my original statement. All right, she built up Dr. Phil, she built up with Ilana Van Zant, she built up Mehmet Okur, right? She hasn't built up the man who been with her for I don't know how many years. I don't even know if Stedman ever been on a show. I mean, I'm not sure, but I don't know if he's ever been on the show. I don't even know if she ever mentions him. And the reason I use that extreme because I see how Steve Harvey, Marjorie this, Marjorie that, Marjorie this, like every single episode. All right. And so with Oprah, she's in entertainment. She's gotten, that's her MO. I don't know who signs all her checks and how she gets things, but I just use that as an example of what are her outcomes. And this is what I see. And I think remember, I think Robert Smith, because I did a case study on him, Robert Allen, where he donated the money to Morehouse so the guys could get their tuition paid. And, I just haven't seen her in mass come out to defense of black men or certain black men in general who may be counter to, I guess, the mainstream media narrative or what she wants to display and do.
Right. We're going to finish listening to it. Hold tight, and then I'm going to pull that clip up you sent me. Hold tight. Let's see.
Oprah's alleged connections to shady figures in Hollywood, and fans are saying Oprah got to where she is by sabotaging and exploiting black entertainers. The notion that Oprah is not as nice as she'd like everyone to think has been circulating on the internet for quite some time, and after Monique recently said she's still waiting for a public apology from Oprah for blackballing her, Ice Cube also spoke out against Oprah, revealing that Oprah banned him from her show. This prompted fans to delve deeper into Oprah's past, and this is how 50 Cent's old interviews resurfaced, where he warned the public that Oprah is not who she claims to be. Oprah has a lengthy track record of faking close relationships with celebrities to gain access to their private information, which she then exploits to boost her ratings. Michael Jackson, Monique, and Toni Braxton are just a few names who had firsthand experience of Oprah's hypocrisy. Numerous celebs have criticized Oprah for being a backstabber, with 50 Cent once describing her as an Oreo, outwardly black, but inwardly aligned with white perspectives. These remarks from 50 Cent emerged after Oprah criticized him for his explicit lyrics and claimed that artists artists like 50 Cent perpetuate harmful behaviors. That's when 50 fired back and said that Oprah, quote, started out with black women's views, but has been catering to middle-aged white American women for so long that she's become one herself. But 50 Cent isn't the only celeb who feels this way about Oprah. Ludacris also previously criticized Oprah for being shady after she invited him to her show, only to humiliate him on national TV. Back in 2005.
So you know, Oprah played in The Color Purple, and I'm gonna say this from a clinical perspective. It appears she have a level of animus towards black men. One, she was violated as a child by one of her uncles, I believe, and I would argue and say she probably internalized a lot of that. It goes back to what we were talking about, projection through the power of displaced aggression. I project my emotions onto someone else. But also introjection, when you tend to identify with the person that took your power away. So I project out of pain, but also I introject because I want power. I project out of pain, introject because I want power. And so therefore I identify with my victims. Sometimes people that have been victimized, they become the assailant and the abuser themselves. And so maybe one could argue, maybe she's doing it from some type of pernicious way of trying to get her power by assailing others. But she's definitely going through probably some unresolved trauma that she haven't gotten healed from, and definitely using her power and her persuasion to get what she wants. But that Color Purple movie has been devastating and done a lot of damage to the image of black men. The new movie came out. We're going to talk about it in a minute. But it appears that Oprah is definitely a victim of her own success, but also a victim of her own pain. What's your take on that?
Well, so just in my own quest for understanding and learning, when people have a moment or a memory, they define it how they choose to. So you and I, when we were at the Manosphere Conclave, we were sitting right next to each other. There could have been things that you observed and you noticed and you took away. And there could have been things that I observed and I noticed and I took away. And that would have been my thought process on that experience going forward. And so with her, she had a traumatic experience and that's etched in her mind.
Right.
And again, I'm not a professional in that particular area. I leave that to individuals like yourself who know about trauma, who know about those types of things. And, she's gotten a level of success doing certain things, interacting with certain people. I don't know, because I actually know people who are cool with her. I don't know who she is behind closed doors, how she is. I just look at the outcomes of the things that she's done. And, I saw what we said about, Ice Cube, about Ludacris, about those individuals. And then I talk about the type of men she's built up, helped, and even how she kind of was riding for Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
That doesn't sit well, especially when there's no balance, right? There's no fair calling the balls and strikes the same way I call your strike zone, the same way I call John Smith's strike zone. She calls the strike zones differently, and that's what we've seen. Now, I don't really know her motives like that, and especially as it comes to the world of entertainment. I know there's a lot of agendas. We saw what was going on with Marvel, and now they're or Disney, and they're kind of trying to a change and whatnot. So, in entertainment in general, a lot of it is narrative driven. And they want individuals who toe that line, who fall in line with that. And maybe the narrative changes, maybe it doesn't. But that's what we've seen from that. And so if the media narrative, because I will say this, like regardless of it's Oprah or not Oprah, the media narrative does not hold well of men in general. The media narrative doesn't hold well of black men in mass. And that's one of the reasons we talk about, Kevin, one, taking control of our image and being in control of that image and putting the different types of images out there, right? They sell, oh, well, this is the men who are doing bad, right? But when there's a day where they need men to come in and help the young boys and help the students, they do that, right? Just like we talk about statistically, black men are single and childless. Remember that other statistic where they say, well, it's more black men in jail than college. That's never remotely been true, right? But that was a media narrative that was pushed. Why? And who pushed back on that? right? Who came to the aid of when things wasn't correct? Who came in was trying to correct that? We don't see that from from those individuals.
Right. And that's why I said, man, their victimization keeps them in power. Them being victims gives them power. That's why I say, because they see themselves as the weaker vessel, them being victims keep them in a state of power. If you have to take ownership for your pathology, then you can no longer be the victim. So it's almost like being the victim keeps me in power. And I think you were seeing this with Oprah and so many others. Hold tight, let's finish listening to that. Then we'll get that clip that you got. Hold tight.
Ludacris and the cast of the movie Crash appeared on the Oprah show to promote their movie. But instead of letting Ludacris talk about his role in the project, Oprah put him on the spot over using the N-word in his songs.
I was there for Crash for the movie.
Yeah.
And basically she said something about not agreeing with my music, but she thought I did great in the movie. And of course I was up there with the whole cast of Crash. And so I didn't necessarily feel like that needed to be said. You didn't agree with my music. And even if you don't agree with certain songs I made, say you don't agree with certain songs, don't say you just don't agree with all of my music.
Right.
What's even more messed up is that Ludacris didn't take Oprah's bait, and he actually responded in an intelligent way. However, Oprah ended up cutting out Luda's response and basically made him look like a fool.
She was able to say what she said, and then I had my rebuttal, and when I saw the final show, her comments were in there.
Right, was in there, but yours wasn't in there.
And mine weren't in there, so it just looked like I kind of took it.
Oprah Winfrey has been trending lately.
All right, hearing that, what Luda said, man, you saw look like Luda a little bit. What's your take?
George, well, he was born in Chicago, grew up in Georgia, so that's one thing we have in common. But yeah, again, entertainment and media is a bit of a challenge for me because a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. It's not real. It's pushing an agenda. So let's just say, for example, you were to come on Oprah Winfrey show, or any show for that, man. Let's take her out of the situation. You may have a 5-minute segment where you can only talk about certain things. They're gonna move interviews and move it along.
Then, of course, there's Dave Chappelle.
In this particular format, we can dig deeper into what we see, what we want to do. And so when it comes to creative editing, we see that a lot of times, the powers that be, they choose to show or not show certain things to move an agenda. And I don't know exactly what Ludacris' response was, but maybe it was something that was not flattering to her and Oprah, just like we recently, Vivek Ramaswamy was cooking one of the young ladies on CNN. They have a narrative to push, and those things, they fall in line with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Dave Chappelle talked about her, and it continues to more or less focus on that. And let me tell you something else too. Sometimes, man, people use art and music, movies, as a way to tell their story or to tell their trauma. That's how they get their power back. Most victims get their power back by either becoming like the person or using some other type of means to identify with their trauma. Like Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry would go, he was abused by his father physically. And Tyler Perry used other means like creating movies to help him deal with his trauma. But hold tight. Let's look at this other part with Oprah real quick. Hold tight. And then we'll look at Ebony real fast.
Who famously appeared on the Oprah show after turning down a $50 million deal from Comedy Central and fleeing to Africa. Dave tried to explain how he had to escape because those kinds of lucrative deals come with certain conditions. However, Oprah kept trying to get Dave to admit he lost his mind.
Colleagues were quoted as saying that you had become increasingly paranoid. Would you say you were paranoid?
Sure. First of all, what is a black man without his paranoia intact? You might win $100 in a poker game and be on the subway. You're gonna look over your shoulder. They just said in everything I had $50 million. That's like making me a marked man.
So did you go to a psychiatric hospital?
In South Africa?
Yeah.
Who?
Dave also revealed that people around him tried to convince him to take antipsychotic medication, and yet Oprah totally dismissed this, repeatedly telling Dave he was probably just stressed out and paranoid.
They're trying to convince me I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not taking this medicine, man, because I know these people be trying to control you or maybe discredit you. I was afraid, like, you know.
But you were stressed out. That's why.
No question. But it's very stressful for someone to constantly walk behind you and say, you're insane.
Speaking of humiliating black men for ratings, it's also important to highlight that Oprah is a close friend of Tyler Perry, who's also faced accusations of perpetuating harmful stereotypes about black men in his films. In fact, actor and voice coach Brandon Jay recently went viral on TikTok when he exposed Tyler Perry for pressuring him into portraying a gay character. Brandon said he was initially cast in the sitcom Meet the Browns and assigned the role of Jeffrey, a high school teenager dealing with bullies. However, according to Brandon, Tyler Perry made sudden changes to the script and informed him that his character would now be gay and have a romantic interest in his bully.
You're on mute, Kosher. We can't hear you.
What they said a minute ago about the denigration of the black male image and how Kevin Samuels and so many other black men in this spaces with once again Black Ram, Tommy, and others have done everything in their power to reduce the distortion of the black male image. You hearing that? What resonated through your head, brother?
You talking about specifically with like this particular clip right here?
Yes, sir. Right. With this clip, right. With this young man saying, Tyler Perry trying to pressure him. You know, it's almost like if you get a black man in a dress, maybe it's part of some occultic ritual. One will argue, but let's put a black man in a dress. Let's diminish the black man. What's your take on that?
Well, again, this is just me making an observation because I don't know all the facts of what was said and what was not said. But whenever someone operates in bad faith, I'm not saying like because I don't know all the details of that particular situation. But I don't know why they wanted to change to make this character. All right. And it just seems in general with people who live alternative lifestyle. But again, I don't de-police or police what people choose to do or choose to not do. I still believe that's the minority. Right. But they have strong voices where it seems like it may be more the majority or whatnot. And so if that was the message that Tyler Perry wanted to put on display or show, I don't know his motives or why he did that. But what I will say is when we see what's going on with Marvel and Disney, that type of agenda has been falling flat. Now, why people want to push certain things and certain agendas, I have no idea. But the way I look at it and with the people I work with and the people I choose to deal with and what I do is I'm all about putting myself in position to be the best version of myself and achieve outcomes. And so the funny thing is my next show is going to be about Jonathan Majors because it's like, was his image compromised? First, they start doing this little thing and then it escalated. All right. And so just as a human being, a man, woman, what have you, when you allow certain things to compromise you, then it's hard to get out of that loop because in order to achieve an outcome, you feel like, okay, it's not me. I have to go back and do what's compromised me, right? Whether it's a woman, if it's giving her body, right? If it's a dude who's stealing and doing drugs, it's going to be hard for him. Yeah, I'm short on this. Let me be vigilant versus let me go out and take from someone else, right? It's hard to go back to that, go stray from that, right? So in this instance right here, I don't know what the guy's relationship was with Tyler Perry or how it was, but maybe he wanted him to go in a certain direction, and this was just the start of it to go to a more extreme. It's really hard for me to say without having all the information.
I understand. I think, right, but I say it's an image to destroy the image of the black man, destroy the image of the family, and to push a nefarious agenda that goes against, one would say, anti-God or anti-Christ. That's it in a nutshell. I believe, Eric, that most know that the black man was the original man, that and what that original man that was black looked like. One would probably argue he looked like Ethiopians or Somalians or whatever, and that because Adam probably was the original man, the one behind the scene has a serene hatred for anything that relates to black men. You can't tell me any other group of men that get the heat like black men get. We're constantly under pressure, constantly under heat. We're constantly being denigrated in the media, and the list goes on and on. Gregory Scotland says, salute kosher. We as black men, especially boomers and Gen X, need to get it through our black I think is that the American black woman has been at odds with us for more than 70 years. Eventually, there will be a separation. And I totally agree with you, Gregory. It's a separation is coming now, and it's slowly and sure. And as Jeremiah Wright said, the chickens are coming.
America's chickens are coming home to roost.
Coming home to roost. Hold tight. The chickens are coming home to roost, Brother Eric. We see it all in all with the emergence of the passport bros. Kevin, before he passed, he was telling black men to exercise their options and deal with women that's going to honor and respect them. What have you seen in the broader world where you see the chickens coming home to roost?
Well, we're seeing that in a sense that you had a video, a young lady, she was, I guess, putting the TV in her car and no one came to help her. You have these people who say they're not protected. You see people who just stand by and watch when things happen. That's an example of chickens coming home to roost. And I agree with whether it's you want to get with go overseas and get a woman, whether you want to get a woman from the country. Like I don't really de-police on what the choices that people do or choose to do. I just say put yourself in a good position and what works for you. So if that works for you, go ahead. I'm not worried about what the next man is doing with his body parts. I'm concerned about, okay, how he is as a man as far as how we interact and how we deal with people. But if I see there's some pushback on the other side, and to me, that's healthy pressure. Because if people aren't buying your product, but they're buying someone else's product, why are they buying that product? Either you're going to say, hey, how can I make my product better? Or you're going to go out of business. And so this is a turning point that we're seeing that, okay, are the women who are not as desirable as some would like or who want mates and whatnot, are they going to compete and get better?
They're not going to. They will rather dig their heels on their way to hell before they're changed. I've heard some Eric say, I'd rather be single before I change. And that's fine. They're going to be singing that song by Harold Melvin, the Blue Notes, The Whole World Laughing at Me, Silly Fool. That's what the song they're going to be singing. The whole world laughing at me. Hold tight. Men know we got to create, Eric, in order to get the women that we want. But the American woman, it supersedes race. Thinks she's better because of social media that men created. Men created TikTok and the internet and Wi-Fi, high-speed internet. But you got women that are 4s and 5s think they're better than the average man. And because of that, I created a term called hoflation. I never heard the term used before I used that. Was it in the media before me? I don't know. But I parroted the talking point from this guy named Peaceful Life. And he was talking about relationship capitalism, where men should capitalize on getting the best women that they can afford. But I parroted that by saying hoflation means that subpar women think they're better than the men they're dealing with. And men should never be victims of hoflation. And I know you're a victim of hoflation. You got that swag, Brother Eric, what they call a high-value man. So you ain't got to worry about no hoflation. But have you had women try to use hoflation towards you and try to make you settle for a lesser deal?
Well, here's the thing, right? Even before let's just say before I made certain upgrades in my life, whether it's my place, my car, my different things, and Floyd Mayweather talks about this. He was always Floyd Mayweather, but once he started getting, I guess, skins on the wall, now their perception changed. Mike Jones back then, they didn't want me. Now I'm hot, they're all on me, right? And so what we have here when you mention technology and whatnot, there's no place that really holds people accountable, because I go and look on different social media and you may see a woman who's out of shape, who's this, that, and you have, whether it's women or simps, they'll be like, oh, she beautiful, she this, she that, right? Or you go this and that, right there. So there is no level of accountability or a truth telling of people's situation. And maybe because some people financially benefit from people being delusional, people doing this, people doing that. It's funny how they talk about women with BBLs and weaves and, all the surgeries and all the other stuff they doing. Well, how did women prior to you who was married more often get married and they didn't have any of that stuff? They didn't have any of that stuff. They had the afro, they had the pick with the fist in there, and they was getting together. So it's a perception of, okay, if we keep deluding these people, we can continue to make money off them. And they're not realizing that the joke's on them. And we see this from a political standpoint as well, too, is one group panders and caters to them, but they kind of take them for granted because we know you're going to do what we want. But now they're not doing what they want, or they're not getting the outcomes, and now they're looking beyond them, and their needs are going to get met. You see like certain places where they say, oh, well, we give money to the foreigners, we give this versus the taxpayer, because you serve your purpose. And so the individuals who participate in hoflation, who want this and want that, they're kind of coming to the end of their usefulness, and not like usefulness as a person, usefulness as to perpetuate a narrative to shame, control people and keep them in line, keep them on the plantation, right?
Right.
And so now that their power of doing that is dwindling, the people who want that control, they're looking at other means. You thought you were special. No, you just special in the moment now because you're able to keep this person in check. Now that you're no longer able to do that, you no longer useful. Just like you a snitch, right? You a snitch because you feeding me information. When that information stop, we done, and snitches get stitches in that particular manner. So when you have people who are participating in the wholeflation, it's almost a situation where they're not genuine they view a relationship as, how can I get help? How can I get help with my rent? How can I help this person help me further my career? How can I help if I have children? Someone to mentor, care for, take for them. How can I get my furniture moved or get my tire changed late at night? They view situations like that versus, okay, I really want to enter into a situation where we're both beneficial, it's both genuine. I want to give as little as I can and extract as much as possible from that. And that, again, that playbook worked in the 80s, 90s, and whatnot before the advent of the internet. The internet for them has been a gift and a curse. It allows them to access more things, be global, experience more things, but it's also allow other people to share your scouting report, right? Your sheet that says, okay, they don't hustle back on defense, take bad shots, and turn the ball over too much. Now we know that, whereas before we didn't have film on it. Now we know. So yeah, you get more opportunities to play, but now we see the film and we can know how to either we want you on our team or we don't want you on our team.
Right. No. I like that analogy, man. Right. Yeah, the internet has been a vice and it's been a virtue. Gregory Scotland said, it's so ridiculous you can have women who aren't qualified as the professionals that they are critiquing and dare to question their credentials. I had one question my credentials, brother Eric, a licensed therapist that hailed from one of the greatest schools, and I boastfully say it, the greatest school, the greatest state in the union, home of Michael Jordan. They don't get no better than Carolina, man. And she said, I questioned that man's credentials because I was not perpetuating the narrative that they want you to perpetuate. The truth is this. The truth don't care about my feelings, Eric. It don't care about your feelings. When you and I stand before God, God ain't going to care about your status, your money, or none of that. But here's going to say like the old folks used to say in the South, may the works I've done speak for me. That's all he's going to care about in the end, man. Mm-hmm. That's all he's going to care about. And we're going to do a quick interlude, Eric, let you run to the bathroom. But in the meantime, they're going to get back to the second part. But in the meantime, they lying on them brothers. Hold tight.
I just want to do God's will. And he's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over. And I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you. But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
To exclusively marry black men. We are in the middle of a
crisis. Black men are in crisis. And anybody who denies that black men are in crisis is ignoring the data, the science, the research, the statistics. It is not a figment of your imagination that there are not enough eligible black men to marry.
It's been an honor serving with you all. Autobots, roll out. We rolling.
Nanobots, transform.
She lie on them brothers, separate uncles and nephews and cousins and try to pin us against mothers. How you a woman but ain't got a man for protection, but you undercover? How do you think that we suffer? Thought we were sisters and brothers. Now you get birthed in the gutter. When they rap, they the same ones that cut you. Be the same ones who yelling they love you. Be the same ones who calling me nigga. After that, wanna say I'm his brother. Yeah, she lie on them brothers. 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 So all going on in your man, you don't get it. And using your women as splitters, then hitters. Put you in place and our family ruin. Target your boys, you don't see what they doing. We gotta beat them, you wanna join them, we just leave them. Your feminist feminism, more like treason. Politics, you don't even follow leaders. First is master, probably cause of your Jesus.
God is white. Isn't it obvious?
Well, that is obvious, but we don't know if it's obvious that God is white. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that Jesus did not have blonde hair and blue eyes. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the images of Jesus that are on prison walls and churches throughout the world are not historically correct, because history teaches us that Jesus was born in a region where the people had color. There's proof in the very Bible that you ask us to read in Revelation, 1st chapter, verse 14 and 15, that Jesus had hair like wool and feet the color of brass.
Just what are you saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm proving to you that Jesus was not, and I might quote one of our Indian brothers, he was not a pale face.
This would have been a dick, you didn't believe it. You reap the benefits from your achievements. Penitentiary, all we get is to eat it. But God on our side, baby, we gon' beat it. She lie on them brothers. She lie on them brothers.
I'm big on you. I'm the biggest, baddest.
Separate uncles and nephews and cousins and try to pin us against mothers. How you a woman but ain't got a man for protection, but you undercover? How do you think that we suffer? Thought we were sisters and brothers. Now you get birthed in the gutter. When they rap, they the same ones that cut you. Be the same ones who yelling they love you. Be the same ones who calling me nigga. After that, wanna say I'm his brother. She lie on them brothers. 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 She lie on them brothers.
Breaking all these black men with what? And they don't give a fuck. Yeah, this man hit me fucking grabbed a rock and it hit me in my fucking face because I would have given him my number. And all y'all just fucking watch. You don't see that shit? You don't see that shit? What do y'all do? I want y'all to be a man. I want y'all to be a man and fucking do something. Y'all gonna let a man hit me in my face.
Roll out. 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 Roll out.
All right, black men are transforming in record numbers, Brother Eric. They predict by 2030 that 45% of women are going to be single. A part of that is due to hoflation. Average to subpar women, they think they're better than the typical man. My father was a blue-collar man worker. He worked in the paper mills of North Carolina. Imagine my mom had said, you're not good enough. But here's the kicker. My mother was a virgin. My mother didn't have kids. My mother was wife-ready. Or better, more wife-ready than these women. But you got women that got multiple kids by multiple men, high bodies, a bunch of debt, a bunch of trauma, but got the audacity to look down on average, hardworking men, and they'll say that man is not enough. And so it burns me up, man, because they lack self-awareness. They love carnal hypergamy, where they like to exploit men. And because there's nothing wrong with a woman being hypergamous as long as it's fit and proper. But they want the best of the best when they're not the best of the best themselves. What are you getting from this conversation and the evidence you've seen thus far, brother?
Well, again, the thing is, what I've seen is people that the buyer, the seller doesn't determine the market, the buyer determines the market.
Right.
So if you're getting subsidized for bad behavior, you're going to continue to perpetuate that bad behavior. Just like if a child, does bad things and has no consequences, they're going to continue to do that. But what happens is when that fixer is no longer available, then they have to suffer and deal with the consequence as it relates to relationships and interactions with men and women. If a person feels like they want certain things, okay, you may want a Bentley, but do you have Bentley money to qualify? Do you have the finances, and can you maintain it? Right. So it's like being able to win it, but then you can't maintain it. You can't pay the taxes on it. So men, even before this time, I think it was like 80% or 90+% of women passed their genes on, but it was like 40% of men passed their genes on. So even prior to that, many women may have felt certain men were undesirable. Now, if you as a woman, you want a top tier man, well, what does that mean? The numbers just don't play in your favor, right? If it, like for MDK Williams, because she makes whatever she makes, how many? Because even in that video we sent, she's a top 1% just as a person, and then as a single available man who's not married, likes her, is attracted to her in general, that narrows their pool. So in general, because women have had to eliminate the bad from the good, as far as they want their children to have the best genes, best provider, best things, they have perpetuated that going forward, and a lot of average men are getting overlooked. Now, these men have chosen to do other things, but when these other women are chasing the same men, they have to compete, and there's less market for them to do. Right. So my position is, you always want to put yourself in position to be the best that you are. You want to be the best clinician possible, right? You may be at level 7, but you want to go to level 8 next, and then once you get to level 8, you want to go to level 9. But you don't get to be level 7 work and expect level 10 outcomes. You may get a certain benefit temporarily, but you won't maintain it because you haven't built the floors underneath to maintain that foundation.
Right.
So if you're someone who doesn't bring much, you're going to have a hard time attracting. Maybe you may attract, but retaining those type of mates, because again, you got to make it a good deal. And salute to brother Carnell Smith. We met him as well in Atlanta.
Yeah. Salute to brother Carnell. He called me Coach of Prime. Some black women and others are also exploiting men in the family court for money to fund lifestyles, including paternity fraud.
Yep.
And shout out to brother Carnell. He is 100% correct. That's part of what Carnell's work is so important. Mm-hmm. That's part of the denigration of the black male image, but the usury of the black male as well, painting black men as deadbeats and not taking care of their kids. That's part of the conversation, the broader conversation.
Well, absolutely, and salute to all the work that brother Carnell. I even think back to AC Green. You may remember him for the Lakers. Mm-hmm. He was a virgin till married. He got paternity fraud suits. But my thought process is this, right? I believe wholeheartedly I control my own destiny, right? I put myself in position to achieve the best possible outcomes. And there is something negative, whether it's a man, woman, a situation, I do the best I can to avoid those type of situations, right? And so it's almost like poison to me. I don't want no parts of it. I don't deal with it. I don't even interact with that. And fortunately for me, I've been able to build my life in a sense that I don't have to deal with a lot of different things. But the other thing is, because I know it's out there, I'm also sympathetic and understanding to men who may be going through certain things, who may have had certain experiences, who may have had women act, behave, or treat them in a certain manner. I don't sit here and say, okay, it's all about me and you guys need to get better. I know there's struggles. I know there's challenges. I know there's ups and downs where people want to go on this journey and improve themselves. And so I look at it like this is like, are you in a situation where if you choosing a woman, regardless of what her background is it beneficial to you? Like, not beneficial in the moment, but is it beneficial to you long term? Is this person going to help you do the things that you need to do from a woman in your life. And that's the part of the evaluation that you have to have, right? Because again, I know some dudes, they may want 50-50. If you're doing that because that's what you actually need versus you're trying to punish a person because of this, then okay. And there may be some dudes who like me who want to pay everything and take care of everything. Well, that's all cool too, but that just means the people who are in this life, they have to fall in line. You can't be mediocre and get high value stuff over the long term. You may get it temporarily, but you can't keep it, you can't maintain it. So it's like a house of cards, it's eventually gonna fall. Now, if some people expect what they expect, okay, they can expect what they want, but that don't mean that's what they're gonna get.
Right. And I think that's the biggest part. They want to get what they want to get without understanding the sacrifices that are associated with. Let's go back and finish looking at this piece real quick.
Okay.
And then we're going to look at that Ebony K. Williams video real quick that you sent to me. Hold tight.
Of Mr. Perry changing up the scenes, he says, you know, I want Jeffrey to be gay, and he has a crush on his bully. That's not what I auditioned for.
Tyler Perry's depiction of female characters has also sparked significant controversy, and he's faced allegations of reinforcing damaging stereotypes about black women. In fact, legendary director Spike Lee once referred to Tyler Perry's movies as, quote, coonery buffoonery. But much like Oprah, Tyler Perry seems incapable of accepting any kind of criticism, and here's how he responded to Spike Lee.
Punch the hell out of you. Say something else.
That is my answer to Spike Lee. Go to hell.
Meanwhile, Oprah has also faced criticism for protecting her powerful white friends, including predators like Harvey Weinstein. Oprah's close connection with Weinstein was widely known for years, and Oprah actually seemed very proud of their friendship. And yet, as soon as Weinstein's actions of SA were brought to light, Oprah tried to minimize her association with him and claimed she had no awareness of his actions. However, multiple celebs have publicly claimed that Oprah was fully aware of Weinstein's crimes. In fact, according to sources close to Weinstein, after his misconduct and SA allegations were made public, Oprah reached out to Weinstein and extended her support. A source who worked with Weinstein told TMZ that Weinstein, quote, repeatedly told his team and friends that Oprah called him and said he needed to speak out and defend himself, and when he did, she would be right there supporting him. The source also shared that a number of powerful people called to voice support, but Weinstein singled out Oprah over and over. Of course, Oprah later denied this. However, celebs like actress Rose McGowan and singer Seal claimed Oprah knew what Weinstein was doing all along. In one tweet, Rose referred to Oprah as a lizard, and she said Oprah is all about supporting the sick power structure for personal gain. Meanwhile, Seal also accused Oprah of hiding Weinstein's crimes, and he posted a photo on Instagram of Oprah and Weinstein alongside the text, when you have been part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you were the solution. In the caption, Seal wrote, oh, I forgot, that's right. You'd heard the rumors, but you had no idea he was actually serially young starry-eyed actresses who in turn had no idea what they were getting into. My bad. Hashtag sanctimonious Hollywood. So as you can see, Oprah's track record of throwing black entertainers under the bus while protecting actual predators is problematic to say the least. And fans are now praising 50 Cent for seeing through Oprah's act long before the rest of the world caught up. In his recent interview with The Guardian, 50 again pointed out just how two-faced Oprah is, and he said she deliberately tried to portray his music as ignorant while refusing to acknowledge his perspective. I got shot 9 times and I wrote music about it, 50 said. Everyone writes something that can connect in a big way based on a painful moment. So you're saying we're not supposed to articulate or write it the way we experienced it? Meanwhile, 50 also accused Oprah of having an agenda against black men. And he wrote in a since deleted Instagram post, I don't understand why Oprah is going after black men. No Harvey Weinstein, no Epstein, just Michael Jackson and Russell Simmons. This shit is sad. As for fans, they're saying it's high time someone held Oprah accountable for all the shady things she's done. And they're praising 50 for having the guts to speak out against her. One fan said, yes, that's when I lost all respect for Oprah after Michael Jackson. It's like always trying to bring our black men down. And another person added, I agree with 50. I've always said this is one of the reasons I never watched her show. She had the cast of Barbershop on once, but didn't invite Ice Cube because of his music.
All right.
Then, of course, there's Dave Chappelle, who famously appeared on The Oprah Show.
About Oprah, we'll be here for hours talking about, Ricky Lake but when you think about Ricky Lake, when you think about Oprah, when you think about Sally Jesse Raphael, what images and thoughts come to your mind in that particular thing?
Well, I mean, it was a circus to me. It was bash this, bash that over. I mean, because that was when I was a young man, right? And it was almost like Hollywood to me. It was not necessarily not real, but it's like, okay, this is a caricature of this kind of like when, because we talking about Color Purple, when Celie put the food up to Suge, and then she was like, okay, I'm watching her throw the stuff on the wall. That's how that experience was for me when I'm seeing some of that, because I was a young man at the time. I'm like, okay, people really do that. I will honestly say I was naive to that. It wasn't my personal experience that I saw men behave like that and treat women in that way. But I was like, oh, that's a world that it happens, right? And so even as you're getting shaped, you try to like maybe overcompensate and say, okay, I don't want to be like that person. I don't want to be like that. And because the women in my family were nice, you could have said I was a sip at a young age, or I was overly nice because, you know, the women in my family were deserving of that. And I felt like at that time that maybe the women that we saw who had those traumas, they were like that because the men were bad, or certain men were bad. Not that all men were like that. It just because I didn't necessarily see that. And so that's the instance where you overcompensate or try to prove that you're not like that. But as you age, as you mature, as you learn and grow, you take people on a case by case basis. And if they got a lot of shenanigans going on, you let them, as this one person said, stew in their own juices.
Yeah. And it seems like it's getting worse, man. I'm sad. This is the video that you sent me. I had to go and reprocess it while we were talking.
Okay.
And let's break this thing down, man, because of fair use and copyright infringement the whole time.
Idea of like the boss chick and independent black.
And before we get into it, what prompted you, Brother Eric, to actually use this particular video? What prompted you, real quick?
Well, so it was sent to me because I have a group, but it was sent to me because she talked bad about Kevin, but now she's using some of his talking points,
right? Yes,
and trying to, it's funny how she talked about co-op and mediocrity and that type of thing, but she's using some of that to almost seem like I'm the wise auntie, like I ain't been engaged in shenanigans before that, and now I'm trying to teach and guide people. But Kevin talked about women freezing eggs, which she definitely talks about. And she's the embodiment of what he said. She's going to be the one who, she may have a nice dog and a nice mansion, but she may be by herself.
Mm-hmm.
It just may be in a little bit nicer one.
Yeah. She it's like she get it, but she get it, but she don't get it. And like you said, she said some backhanded compliments about Kevin. She said we're not going to celebrate mediocrity,
right?
Which is weird, by the way. Shout out to the Good Therapist for the $5 super chat. I appreciate it, brother. Another fellow therapist of mine. I appreciate it, brother, for the $5. Thank you, sir. You're a dynamite. Thank you to the Good Therapist. I appreciate it, brother. But go ahead. You're about to say something.
Well, even still, with her, she understands, but she still thinks she gonna find a way for her to win. That's what I see right here. She gets it, but she's still showing I'm gonna be different, right? She, in her mind, is whatever method she's using to have this child, she's like, I'm gonna do this because I value this, which is kind of odd to me because I don't know exactly how old she is. But motherhood is this important, but you waited so long to it. But that's a conversation for another time. But you're gonna be, I'm gonna be the exception, not the rule. And I think she's gonna end up being that way because, again, we don't like. It's funny when we see women who have, they may do, adult things and say, oh, well, my son or my child is gonna be okay because I'm gonna teach them it's okay that your mom loves you even though she engaged in this type of behavior or that type of behavior. But you can't control that child's need to want to belong because they're going to want to have interaction with people outside of you, right? And so their self-esteem is built up by the encouragements that you give them, and then it's reinforced by the outcomes that they have outside in life. If you teach someone to be persevering, when they have a challenge outside the home, they're going to persevere in that. But if you teach them to, just push off things and not pay attention, they're going to have a culture shock when they go out there and experience that. So let's see. If she had this baby now in 2024, let's see her in 2026 or 36 if we all be here and see if she's still talking that same tune of I want to do this. Because, again, You can claim and say, you know, I know my parents probably had expectation of me. Now they're very proud of me, but I'm in a totally different direction of that, right? And so as a parent, you may think that, and so I guarantee you, she thinks that she's going to be the exception and not the rule. It'd be fascinating if she has a son and see how that turned out.
Right.
Because I think was it Alice Walker that her children started having issues with her as she got older?
I don't know.
I think it was Alice Walker, like where her daughter was like really. I think it was. We got a lot of researchers in the chat here. Maybe someone can put that in there. But I think it was Alice Walker that her daughter was like rebelling against her and didn't like how she perpetuated things in her lifestyle. And here's the other funny thing too, right? Let's just say she has a daughter or has a son. Well, they may not be as fortunate to follow the blueprint that you follow and get on TV, be an entertainment lawyer and make money like that. So how are you going to help them cope? What lessons are you going to teach them, that child growing up? Because it may not be duplicatable. We see this with Michael Jordan. His sons were not as good at basketball as he was. All right. Even LeBron James, his son is yet to be seen, but he may not achieve that level of success that LeBron has. So how do you cope with that when you try to push them to that and they just take a different direction? I think that's going to be more painful and a bigger challenge than anything. But we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. Well, she's definitely delusional, man. Got a lot of delusion. Let's look at this video you sent. We're gonna break this thing down. Hold tight.
Woman, and has it
served us? Is that the question? Has that served us?
Helpful, or is it destroying the Black family ecosystem?
I think you have to say on some level it's destructive to a traditional Black family ecosystem. I think just the facts bear that out, right? So that's not feelings, that's not subjective. That's just the reality is, as you just pointed out, there is a huge numbers gap between Black women that are buying homes at almost twice the rate of single Black men, that are graduating from undergrad and professional schools at sometimes 6-7 times the rate of our brothers. And by the way, if you ask most Black women, that's not something that we enjoy or appreciate. Like, it's not a situation. And I think that's another misconstruction and a misassumption that Black women are out here strategically competing against.
So they keep equating their degrees with this. Once again, Eric, they are equating their social market value with their sexual market value. And that's what Ebony doesn't understand. Men dictate the market. And they're getting older, they're getting more bodies, you know, and she still don't understand that, yeah, you might got your degrees, you making money, but what she don't understand, you tell me what you think about this, Black women benefited from the policies like affirmative action, where those jobs were supposed to be given to Black men, but they were given to Black women. So they basically empower Black women at the expense of Black men in the family. What's your take on that?
Well, so two things, right? So first things first, she said Black women buy houses more than Black men. Well, why is that? Well, different people have different lifestyles. Even people who have money, because we talk about Kevin. Kevin is like, yeah, I like high rises, time rise, so I can have flexibility to move. And also, too, many men know that if they were to ultimately get married, their wife may not like that house. They may want to change things. So that's just one aspect of it. And also, too, you have more men, especially Black men in college now, and more education than there's ever been in any of the previous generations. So why is it now a problem when it wasn't before, when you have more people who fit that mold? They're going to college, they're getting education, and they're getting degrees. And then if we talk about the debt ratio, where a lot of, the highest student loan debt that's carried by Black women, such and so forth, and the highest employer of government, I think that's Black women as well, too. So you're looking at something in a sense that you're utilizing that to put a feather in your cap, right? And so in the IT world and in a certain world, when we talk about reasons, it's like, so what? So what does that mean? You got all these houses and degrees. What does that mean? How does that help you? How does that benefit you? How does that make you more attractive, more valuable? Because again, we know there's a lot of blue collar men who are out here being successful, making a lot of money doing not necessarily non-traditional work, but they're not white collar jobs, but some of them, they make more and they're going to advance quicker than a white collar man would. So you got all these houses, you got all this money, you have all this cars. Okay, good. What is the outcome that you want? Is it that you want to get with a regular guy, or you want to get with a high value guy? Okay, so you have all that. Is that or is that not important to the man that you want? Not should it be, not I think it ought to be. Is that or is that not important to the man that you want in mass?
And here's the problem with that, Eric. When they say black women are buying houses, that's a misnomer. Ebony is looking at a small percentage of black women with advanced degrees that have PhDs or masters. There are less than 3,000 PhDs that are females in America. That's a very small percentage. Mm-hmm. Those that have masters and bachelors, it's a small percentage. So she's talking about a small percentage. When you say black women, then you're talking about black women for every demographic. Right. But we know that's not true. So that's a misnomer. That's like when they say, well, black women make more money than black men. That's a lie.
Yep.
Only women of a certain economic class make more. Certain women that got higher degrees might make more. But by and large, black women don't make more than black men. Black men make more money. Even the black women that have more advanced degree, their debt to credit ratio has been skewed because they make more, but they spend more. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about, them buying houses, you're talking about professional, educated women. Some she's not qualifying. She's making it sound like black women in general are getting degrees and not getting degrees, buying houses and leveling up. And that's not the case. The ones that have master's degrees and PhDs maybe, but the PhDs is a small percentage of the population. Mm-hmm. Masters after that. So out of the whole black population, we could probably argue less than 1 million or maybe around about 500,000 got houses and homes. The rest of them are struggling. What's your take on that?
I mean, I definitely get where you're coming from in that, because people just focus on and talk about their particular circle. So because she's a successful person, she's not hanging out with broke or low-level women out there. She's going to admit later on that she's a 1% person. So 1% people, what do? They live in 1% neighborhoods. They drive 1% cars. They go to 1% restaurants. If they go to McDonald's, they're not going inside. They're going to the drive-thru. That's what they do because they may like that. And so she's talking about a specific small circle where that's not the norm. And it's fascinating too, because we talk about people traveling and going overseas and they take all these pictures, but it'd be like 5, 6 of them to a room. They doing it, and they got there because their friend worked for the airline and they have a buddy pass. That's how they do that. And then they come back and struggle, and because I've seen it, and so it's a lot of things in the media that is just false. It's not true. It's not real.
Right. Because a lot of black men they don't have so the blue collar black men don't have student loan debt. The blue collar black men don't have children. Some of the blue collar and some of the white collar black men. So they're not making more money than black men. That's an illusion. Even the ones that are making money, many of them in a lot of debt. They got exorbitant amount of debt. Mm-hmm. So what they do, they use their degrees as a way to minimize the brilliance and the greatness of black men.
Yeah, or they amplify one and magnify that as if they're all like that. So for example, if all of us said, well, we all Michael Jordan, LeBron James, right? That's us, right? Well, the NBA is a small portion of the population of men, right? That's a small group of individuals who are doing well. We don't necessarily take that and claim that for all of us, because we have to make our own path. And so again, I go back to my original point. You got houses, degrees, great. So what is the outcome that you want? Because I focus strictly on outcome. Do you want to get married? Do you want to, have children? What is the outcome that you want? What is your blueprint relationship? What is your vision for the relationship? And in that sense, does that line up with the man that you want a relationship? Does that line up? And it seems like there's a great disconnect. So you can't change the people from wanting what they want. You, especially if they're the buyer, you have to give them what they want. And you have to give them what they want long term. Otherwise, they're going to either not buy or buy from someone other than you.
Right. Right, but here's the problem. They don't want to give men what they want. And so the blue-collar men that they are rejecting, or the quote-unquote lesser class, those men are getting passports, and that's what they don't like. They want to keep those men hanging around for their own selfish needs, and that's why so much vitriol towards men getting passports and men that are traveling. Let's finish looking at this clip that you sent me. Hold tight.
Black men. No, sir. Most of us want to be in relationship with Black men. And so it's in our interest, even selfishly. So not necessarily from this altruistic place of, oh, we just want to see our brother succeed. There's that for sure. But there's a self-interested element of that, right? That says, if I'm a Black woman and I want to have Black children with a Black man and live in a house with a Black husband and buy properties and travel the world and enjoy my life alongside a Black man, I would like him to be similarly positioned to me socioeconomically, so that partnership feels comfortable and feels safe from a fiscal place, and maybe some other places too. So let me just spend a little time on that, because I was talking to a very good girlfriend of mine who's one of your typical clients, as you described, early 40s, making, $500K plus, single, And there's a lot of thought that women like her, myself, even, of course, are.
Now, what is a man that let's say, Eric, you make $500,000 a year. You will be a fool to sell it for a woman like Ebony K. Williams that's post 40, probably been ran through, bossy, dealing with unresolved trauma. You would be a fool to deal with a woman like Ebony K. But Ebony K think, once again, that her social market value is the same as her sexual market value.
Well, she wouldn't be a primary. And here's the thing, right? When we make plans, in general, we make plans for the long term. And it's fascinating that, let's just say, I know she went to law school, right? And I have family members of lawyers. And I remember them planning out the steps. They say, okay, first I'm going to get my undergrad. Then I can't remember the test they take. Maybe it's the LSAT. I can't remember. Then I'm going to law school. Then I'm going to pass the bar in whatever state I want to practice in. So that's like a 4, 5, 6 year, 7-year plan in order to achieve that. All right. So if you as a woman, you prioritize a family, then even if you're climbing, making money, doing those things, then you should still be strategic about that. So what they're doing is they done turned the ball over 20 times, gave up 50 points, and now they trying to run the 2-minute offense, and they down 50. And that's not going to be as successful as you would like it to be. So and it's fascinating coming from Ebony when her last relationship was with a non-Black man. And I think she said she dated all kinds of. So for you to bring up Black families when you've dealt all over, that's kind of a bit of some
That's a good point. Excellent point.
Now again, I don't de-police, but what I'm saying is I call it like it is. You like people who want to have Black families, that's what they focus on.
I totally agree with you, man. But see, that's the flex. That's the flex, because I promise you, somewhere down the line, she probably saw the average Black man as a nobody. And see, here's the problem. In other countries, average Black men get average women. And that's why there was so much animus with Kevin Samuels, because Kevin Samuels was trying to tell them that high-value men want a different type of woman. And high-value men have more options. And many couldn't hear it because they were delusional.
Well, that's part of it, in a sense that, like we talked earlier about, different types of men are going to have different needs, okay? And so they're going to have different needs, different expectations of the women. Now, it's not that she saw the Black men as less than her. Rashad McCants didn't want her. Michael Jordan didn't want her. All them dudes who was hooping at North Carolina, who was in the league, they didn't want her.
Right.
They was chasing and dealing with someone else. So her 500,000, when you got someone like Zion who make 28 million a year, that don't impress the type of men that she was looking at wanting physically attractive, who she would find physically attractive. And then even with her last man, she was trying to run things. And so eventually he got tired of it. But that shows the type of person that she is, in the sense that she wants to control everything. Right. Okay, what type of man lets you control everything? A man who's the opposite of you. So, I mean, if this is what they choose, that's what they choose. But it's a weaker man. And typically a weaker man is going to be less successful, not because he don't have the drive, the ambition. It's just like, okay, it's one thing to get it. It's another thing to keep it and keep the vultures off. And when you do that, you develop a certain skill set and strength, which is going to make you not desire a woman like that. It's like, it's a cause and effect thing that they're overlooking, but they're trying to find a hack in the system, and it's just not it's not working for her. So someone like Ebony K. Williams, she's someone you play with on the weekend. That's what you do. And even just from her personality, she don't seem like she all that pleasant. So the juice may not be worth the squeeze. But even with her friend situation, who's 40 something, make five. I said, what was you doing at 30? What was you doing at 25? At what point? And I ask people this all the time. I'm like, okay, you say you've been single for this long, you haven't been dating for this, right? Why is marriage and a relationship a priority now when it wasn't before? Why is it a priority now?
Right. And that's why I said, I did a show in the past, Eric, called Black Love Without Consent. We use the word consent in the clinical world in order to disseminate information. But they never consent to black men and ask them what they want. They just assume what black men want. They just assume they can give them leftovers, but they never consent to ask men what they want. And I think that's the part of the greater conversation. Hold tight.
Materialistic. And that's why when we say we are attracted to this type of man, or we prefer to date this kind of man that has similarly, notice hardly any of us are saying we need a man to make more than us, or we need a man to take care of us, or we need a man to pay our bills. No, really, truly, hand to God. We really would love to be partnered with someone who is similarly positioned.
Well, can I just interject one thing? Because this is going to be controversial, but this is, I think, important. So the problem with this is that, all right, so a 35-year-old single woman who's making $400,000 a year, right? And that they're looking for their equal counterpart. And that makes sense, right? But it's like the difficult part about that is that the equally yoked man who's 35 that's making $500,000, he's probably already in a relationship. He's probably married. The ones that's not married, they're not necessarily looking for somebody that's 35. They're looking for the 28-year-old. So now it's like, okay, you're either forced with a decision to just remain single or look down. Now there is the truck driver. Now there's the UPS man who's a great man, but who's making $80,000 a year, right? Because now it's equal. It's hard to find that equal counterpart. Men, you could be 50 years old, and it's not. The age doesn't really matter.
No, and I've said this, and this is controversial, right? That because of the way society values gender roles, right? So the way in which we find a woman attractive, what are we really talking about under that? And it doesn't hurt my feelings. Let's just say it. People across the spectrum culturally, but we're talking about black people, so let's center that. Black women are assessed around our beauty, our aesthetic, physical beauty, and there's biological reasons for that, and our fertility and our youth. Those are the main things that a man is going to be assessing when deciding if you are for him. And then it's going to be the quote soft skills. It's going to be, do you make him feel loved, catered.
And then so Eric, it's almost like she understands what needs to happen, but it sounds like she's not going to operationalize it in a suitable way. Go ahead. What do you get from the conversation?
Well, she's missing a major factor, all right? Because she talks about gender roles, but even when they make that money, they still want those gender roles. Because if we talk, a man doesn't say, "Hey, I want a woman to make as much as I do, or have this level of status." All those things are important. That is strictly gender specific, which she's highlighting on. Whereas a man, he can date a waitress, he can date a paralegal, he can date that. But the paralegal don't want to date the other paralegal. She want to date the partner, right? And so that's the major difference. Where she tried to say there's difference in gender roles, then if gender roles wasn't important, then you wouldn't care how much that man made.
Right.
The fact that you want someone on your level or equal, that is strictly a feminine female quality that she desires. Because if it didn't matter, his money, just like when a man who make money, his money, he don't care about her money, right? But she make all the money. She's gonna admit later she's a top 1%, but she still cares about his money. So that means you want traditional roles in that sense.
Right. It goes back to what I was saying earlier, Eric. They want tradition when it benefits them, but they want partnership when it relates to power. Listen, it's called taxation without representation and the mental breaking of the American male. It's taxation without representation. It's flip-flop politics, where on one end I want a partner, a partner for power, but I want a husband when it comes down to money. And I'm a firm believer, if I'm bringing in money, that money gonna be disseminated the way I deem it necessary that they need to be disseminated if I'm gonna be the leader. It ain't gonna be no my money is my money and your money is my money. You got me confused. My money is my money and your money is our money. Well, you may take that back. My money is our money and your money is our money as we work together to build legacy. But they don't get it. And that's why I said modern women are not fit for the kingdom of man, but not only the kingdom of God, because they don't understand order. Gregory Scotland said, no, most black women don't want to be with black men. They haven't for many decades. Check out BGS's Ideal of Racial Hypergamy. It spells out a lot about the history of black women divested mindset. And I think there's some truth to that. When you think about the Miss Ann concept, I hear women saying that black men didn't protect them during slavery. I'm like, how in the hell are we going to protect you? When we were slaves, we were struggling. Because watch this. Male protection looks different than female protection. Men protect women physically, but women protect men mentally. So who was protecting the image or the mindset of a black man during Jim Crow? Nobody, because she was broken. So a broken woman cannot protect the mental image of a black man, neither could a black man protect the physical image of the physicality of a black woman. But they don't look at it like that, Eric, because by nature, they are selfish. And once again, thank you for my man, Greg with Scotland. And that's a deal, right, brother? I appreciate it. Thank you for that 5. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, brother Greg with Scotland for the 5. Thank you, sir. Hold tight. The lines of videography say it seems like a great number of women want to exploit men. Yes, and that's what I talked about, ma'am. It's a term that I created called carnal hypergamy.
Tears. Make you laugh.
Yeah. You remember that song back in the day called Tears by Force MCs? Falling in love again. That's what the song said, Eric. And Keith Sweat said, make this last forever. And see, men become suckers of love when they fall in love with the wrong woman. That's why I tell men never to fall in love, but love within reason. When you love within reason, Eric, your mind stays intact, your purpose stays intact, your devotion to God stays intact. And then the woman that you are dealing with, if she decides to leave you, and many will, you won't jump off a bridge and take your life because you understand that it's your purpose first. It's God first, because God is the author of your purpose. Your purpose second, and then your woman behind you supporting you in your purpose on the front end. That woman, then you turn around on the back end and you support your woman by giving her provision, protection, your love, and your life if you had to. But the problem, Eric, is this. Many come into marriages thinking that the man is supposed to worship her on the front end, to aggrandize her on the front end, and she take care of him on the back end, but that's wrong, because the woman was made for the man. The man wasn't made for woman. Woman was made for man. She is the glory of man. So in traditional cultures, the women take care of the men on the front end by nurturing him, loving him, supporting him, following his leadership. But on the back end, the man builds an empire. He builds a legacy, and he leaves a legacy for his children. That's the way it's supposed to be. But so many men have been depowered because they don't have masculine fathers to teach them how they need to stand in masculinity. And as Bishop Charles E. Williams say, y'all ain't gonna talk to me. But Eric, men standing in their power, what does that mean to you real quick? And we're gonna get through this. I can't believe we've been on this stream for almost 3 hours, man. It's been good.
I know it's working, and I agree wholeheartedly with you. I don't believe men should fall in love with women, because then again, it clouds judgment. It makes them not focus. But I do agree that you said like they should love, respect, honor, protect the woman that they choose to, love them, but not necessarily be in love with them. as far as that aspect, as far as men standing in their own power. That's just being on your purpose and being in control of your life and your destiny and moving toward the path, whatever that you choose it to be, and utilize that as your focus. And then you have people enter into your life and stay in your life who lead toward that purpose, so you can have a mutual respect, a mutual relationship, whether that's women who you're going to have in your life, whether that's other allies and partners. You want them to be mutually beneficial, that you're adding value to them, they're adding value to you, and it's not just one person extracted for the other, and it's with a purpose or a benefit in the long term. That's what I feel about people standing in their power.
Right. Very, very much true. Hold tight. Let's finish listening to this. Hold tight.
Too loyal? Are you relatively non-confrontational? Not too much pushback or challenges around ideas and decisions? And those are the things that would really make you just highly desirable in the dating market as a woman. Now let's go to men. What makes a man highly desirable in a dating market? It is going to be financials. It's going to be your ability to provide financially and fiscally. It's also going to be your physical's kind of your stature. Like there's a reason why, this 666 thing, I think that's really corny, but whatever. But there's a reason why a lot of women will swipe right on men that are at least 5'10", 6 feet. They want to feel there's some physical dominance coming from a man. Then you've got, just kind of age. There's a reason why older men, like you just said, bro, like 50 plus, that's not a deterrent for most women, because that presumes more stability. That presumes you've lived life longer and you can probably protect and know and help and navigate these spaces better and more effectively than I can in my youth. So you're right. Kind of the way in which we assess and evaluate value as men versus women create an inherent conflict. I will add one little caveat though to the scenario you laid out, where you've got these 35 and up women who've got these, big incomes and degrees and all this stuff, but we're not necessarily as desirable to the men that are our age and financial equal, which is why personally, I enjoy dating older men, because at 40, if I'm dating a man who's 56, there's more likelihood that he will appreciate some aspect of youth around me. Now, could that same 56-year-old get a 28-year-old? It's possible. But I'm living this. I'm not just talking and writing about it, guys. I'm out here living this, and I have been for the last 4-ish years since I ended my engagement. I do find that can be a sweet spot for some women that are in that like 38 to 45-year-old range. Dating older men can kind of give you back some of that advantage around you.
When I'm listening to it, I'm trying to figure out, there's plenty of women who are in that scenario right now when we're talking about socioeconomic factors. Is that the compromise? Or even, I don't even want to use the word compromise. Is that?
I think you better think about it. I think you're damn sure, because I got girlfriends and sorority sisters that don't like to date those men. It's exactly what you said. They're 40.
So Eric, there's a concept that
I was going to tell you to pause that, because this was a good one right here.
Right. There's a part, Eric, that we use in the clinical world called in psychosocial development, Erickson called it intimacy versus isolation. Women that have intimate relationships are willing to be empathic to a person, and they're willing to compromise. Those women get intimacy. That's from 18 to 40. But isolation happens when people become self-centered, ego-centered. And so what happens, that goes into the next stage of a person's psychosocial development called generality, when they're making progress from 40 to 50. They're getting ready to leave wealth to the next generation, or they're going through stagnation, which is called an existentialist crisis, meaning why am I living? What is my purpose? The very last stage that Erickson talked about was called ego integrity versus despair. Ego integrity is consistent with the great teacher Paul. He said, I've kept the faith, and now which is laid upon me is a crown of life, meaning he lived his life on purpose. But despair is what Kevin talked about, when many would be alone or on their deathbed in an old folks home, and they are sad, and they're gonna be damn singing that song. They're gonna be singing that song by Patti LaBelle, On My Own. Hold tight. This is how it's going to be.
I thought you might say, if you think you're lonely now, wait until tonight. So a couple things about that take with Ebony. She's a bit disingenuous in a sense that she's being theoretical, in a sense that she says, I know this doesn't work, but I'm going to try to be the exception, because she's saying this in with her dating life and whatnot. And here's going to be the challenge for Ebony. Not only does she make money, she's on TV and she has status. And so any man, even if he make 10 million, make more money than her, she's still going to hold, hey, I'm on TV. People want to listen to me. So in a sense, you should listen to me. I'm significant. I'm important. So that's going to be a challenge. That's one of her, because like when we talk about like some of the 6 basic needs, certainty, uncertainty, significance, love, then you have growth and contribution. Many people are ruled by certainty and significance, right? Everyone has a little bit of that, but those are her 2 main needs. So significance in that, one, she wants to feel important and wants to laud that over people. And then the certainty in a sense that she wants to be in control of everything and not take certain risks, right? So even with her, she says she's dating these older men, right? And these people, she's going to go into later about the having of children, but she wants to date these other men, but none of the men are trying to be with you. None of the men are saying, hey, I want to date you long term, right? They're not saying that. And they haven't been saying it, because I guess she's 40, 30, however she is. They haven't been saying that, right? And so she's thinking, okay, I make a little bit more money, I'm going to get this. I do a little bit like this, I'm going to do this. Just like we got a certain player trying to be the GOAT, I do this, I'm going to get that, even though it's inconsequential. They're trying to push a narrative, and people aren't falling for it, right? They're not believing it. They're not buying in. And it ultimately, I think, is going to drive them crazy, because in their mind, they think if I do A, I'm going to get B because I'm different. Mm-hmm. And well, when that doesn't happen, it's like culture shock. It's like crazy. It's like you thought you was untouchable, but you wasn't. And that's what I think we're going to see from her going forward. And at the same time, those things, you have to look at what's appealing to the man that you want. And if you don't care, fine. Because most men, they're not going to be vocal the way Kevin was and say, okay, this is what we want. This is why you're not getting it. They just going to not be around you. I don't be around those type of people. Just like people who, engage in certain behaviors. I know they're out there. I'm just not around them. I don't be around those people. Mm-hmm. And so what women don't understand, or some of these women don't understand, is these men, and Obsidian talks about this all the time, they will make it so you're not around them. You're not in the same places that they're in.
Right.
They'll make it that way. And you be like, I don't see these men. No, they hiding from you.
Right. Summon to the passport bros, man. Mm-hmm. They're putting themselves in better positions. Hold tight.
Yep.
They want to date a 40-year-old. They don't have kids. They don't want him to have kids. Right. So one of the reasons, I'm sure we'll get into this, you guys know I've been very public that I am deep into my single motherhood by choice journey. I'm having my child as we speak. Like, that process is well underway. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I'm doing that is because I date older men. And you know what the situation of older men are? They've had their children. Their children are grown. Their children might even be in college or beyond. So a 56-year-old man, even a 58-year-old man, is not inclined to want to change Pampers and warm bottles. Okay. He's done that. Right. So I'm not going to say, because I was doing that. Like, before I decided to do this journey, I was like 37, 38. And I was dating these like 52, 53-year-old guys, a lot of them in finance, a lot of them in, having businesses. And they were like, love you, definitely would be with you, would even marry you. But baby, oh no. No. So I kept running into that. Like, there were like 3 guys in a row that was the scenario. So it's like, now I got a decision to make. How bad do I want to be a mother? I had to assess that, because if that's kind of optional, then what he's proposing is a good scenario. Let's go live life, and I still boss out and be a great career woman, and we travel and go to the St. Bart's and Saint Tropez and live a great life. But if I really want to be a mother, and I do, I had to make a different decision, which is let me go have my child, and then we can have more of a companion relationship with these older guys that have already raised their children and lived their lives.
And Eric, I struggle with that, man, because they still don't see the men as being the leaders of that relationship. They see that man as being an accessory. Hold tight. Shout out to my man Gregory Scotland for the 5. He said, here's a major problem. You have an unmarried woman, whether baby mamas or not, who want to have the loudest female voice more than the married women. Yeah, and they shame the married women, Gregory. They shame them. And they don't listen to the married women, but they're trying to get some level of insightfulness. But you know, the Isaac brothers said they want a young woman that's going to drive him crazy. Kevin wanted a young woman that was going to drive him crazy. Touch me, baby. Give me what you want. I think that's what Kevin wanted. Him a young women.
What? And I wish he had the thing where it said "stop the cap," because that's what Ebony K. Williams is doing, and I'm gonna tell you why. Right? Didn't Al Pacino just have a baby, and he like 80 something? Like it's some famous actor who just had a child. I can't. It might have been Al Pacino.
Right.
The chat they can say so. That's see when we look at her saying that, there are tons of counter examples to that. There are older men who get with women and still. You know, they get with other women and still want to have children. They just don't want to do that with you. Because I know Kevin was open to having other children, and he was 53 and he had a over 18 daughter. So what I'm saying is not that men do not want to do that. They just don't want to do that with you, Ebony. Right. Because we see it like I know it's older men having children all the time. And even when you talk about celebrity, I have a buddy. He's an air traffic controller, so you know he makes good money. He has, I want to say, he had a son who's in college, maybe just graduated, daughter just graduated, right, in his 50s. Now he's not like Ebony K. Williams, but as an air traffic controller, if you know anything about air traffic controllers, they start off making 130 when they start, and so when you've been doing it over 10, 20 years, you may be over 300, 350, like very, very well. So like anybody who know air traffic, they'll tell you that. So I know this brother personally. He had adult children and just had a new baby a month or two ago. So that flies in the face to everything that she says. Flies in the face. They just don't want to do it with you. And you want to control everything because here's the thing. We saw you was with the man who had children before. And the rumor is, or the saying is, you want to boss his children around. You chose to be a single mother, not because these men said, I like you, I want to marry you. No, you chose that because you didn't want them to have any say, any feedback on that, right? And because you're a celebrity, if you have issues in your relationship or issues with the child father, you know it's going to come out and smack you in the face. So you said, I'm so smart. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to be, as the line is pointing out, a single mother by choice. Again, there's that significance and that certainty. So I can be in control of everything. And because I have a child, that child is going to love me unconditionally, which is true till they get about 14, 15. They start wanting to be their own man or their own woman. And now you're the problem. So that's the foolish folly of expecting your child to love you like that, because you know that even for those 10 or 12 years or however it is before they get a certain age, not to say they'll stop loving you after that, but the unconditional love is going to change. So after that point, she couldn't be with a man 10 or 12 years and experience that. She just right. So she takes the easy way out.
Right. And then on top of that too, Eric, she used to power. So she's not going to submit to no man's authority. That marriage won't last long unless she marry a simp, and she ain't going to respect the simp. A masculine man like Michael Jordan or Rashad McCants would check her. She's in a bad predicament because she ain't going to change her ways. No. And the man that she married, she's going to be talking about a partnership instead of her being the wife to a man and that man leading the relationship. There was a woman, Eric, there was a millionaire. She was a billionaire. She was an oil tycoon billionaire out of Nigeria. And this woman said, just because I make $1 billion in the oil refinery industry, that does not supersede my husband being over me. Try to tell Ebony K. Williams that because you make $500K, that you're not over your husband. She see her husband as equality as it relates to power, but as it relates to traditionalism, she want a husband. And that's a dichotomous or the duplicitous thinking that many of these women have.
Yeah. And that's probably the path I'm on. Yeah. But yes, to the front end of your question, what do we do as middle-aged, let's say that, let's just own it, right? Middle-aged Black women who are highly educated with these high incomes based on societal averages, we've essentially priced ourselves out of the market. And when I say, I mean, in a lot of ways, we priced ourselves out of the market in terms of our incomes many of the time. Because think about it, like, let's just talk, you guys are numbers guys for real, right? When you're talking about making $500,000 to $750,000 a year in some cities, you're talking about being in the 1% to 2% of income earners of the whole society.
Yes.
As period, not just as Black women, like period. Like when you make $750,000 a year or more in New York City, you're earning in the top 1% of New York City, even compared to white men, compared to Black men, compared to anybody. So now that's a small pool anyway. And now you're telling me that I want somebody that's earning in the top 1% alongside me, and I want him to, potentially not have children and want to have more children. It's too much. So yes, we do have to start making strategic, what do you want to call it, compromises or settling or Mr. Good Enough, or I don't give a damn what you call it. But we have to start deciding what's important. So for me, being a mother is important. For me, maintaining a high income so that I can maintain autonomy and the ability to say no to any shit I don't want to tolerate is important.
See, Eric.
That's it right there. The autonomy.
The autonomy, right. That's what we're talking about, Eric. Taxation without representation. This woman is still broken. She's not coming into a relationship being vulnerable, because when you're vulnerable, you let your guard down. But that goes back to the narrative about the color purple, when you don't want to tolerate no ish or whatever. She see all of her experiences through the trauma of her mother, imagined or exaggerated. Real quick, go ahead, brother.
Well, I don't even see it from a color purple lens. I see it as in, if a man says, "Hey, I want you home," she's like, that's what I see from tolerate her. Not that someone is physically or whenever abusing her. She just, if she want to go on a girl trip, she want to go on that and not have to answer to anybody. She doesn't want to be under the guidance of anybody. Because someone could be telling her right. It just, she says what she does not want to deal with or do. So they can say, "Hey, do less shows so you can take your child to school." No, I want to do what I want to do. So she's openly saying that she wants to be a mother. Now, again, why wasn't that a priority before? Why is it a priority now? Maybe because, again, her actions didn't dictate that. And then 2, she wants control and autonomy. And that's just not appealing to even men who don't make no money. That's not appealing to her, because, again, some dude, he make like, well, I don't want to get into this one. I was going to say something crazy. But let's just say in a lot of areas, I can imagine the juice is not worth the squeeze as it relates to dealing with her. The hoops she got to go through, the stuff you have to deal with is not really that great of a prize. And I'm going to just leave it at that. We're going to keep it clean over here, Coach. We ain't in the barbershop.
Well, listen. What is a man getting when they're getting Ebony K. Williams? Her peak fertility years are declining. She got to take shots in order to make sure her fertility is running. Mm-hmm. I'm sure she's been ran through. So what is a man getting? And so that goes back to where they think they're better than the men. And then on top of that too, what she doesn't understand is this. There's a difference between a wife and there's a difference between a partner. A partner is based on egalitarianism. A wife is based on her submitting to her husband's leadership, honoring her husband's leadership, and that dirty word they all hate, obeying their husband consistent with the scripture. But they don't want that. They want a man on their own terms, under their own auspices, when they can do what they want to do. Because I tell people, Eric, that control can be mutually inclusive. Control is mutually inclusive. There's good control, but then there's bad control. Bad control is abusive. A lot of women equivocate control as Mr. But good control is okay. You can't be my wife dressing like a hoe. You can't be my wife talking to your exes. You can't be my wife blowing money on stupid stuff. Because I am the husband. The word husbandry means care for. So if I'm going to care for you and you're under my leadership and you're taking my last name, then you got to follow my rules and my expectations as a husband. No more than when you're under the leadership of a company or a job, you got to follow that. But see, the problem is, Eric, taxation without representation. They want to tax you with the burden of being married due to the draconian laws in America. That's one thing. But on the flip end, they don't want to represent your laws and they don't want to represent your leadership. And that's the problem.
Well, so two things. One, I agree with that. But here's the other thing, right? Their vetting process is not good. It's what you believe, right? And your belief is affected by your actions, right? So you sitting on a chair, I'm sitting on a chair. The reason why we sitting comfortably on this chair is because we feel like this chair can support our weight.
Right.
If we didn't feel like this chair could support our weight, we would do one or two things. We may sit a little bit differently, take it in for repairs, or we get a new chair. And so what happens is a lot of them, they go into situations where they know that person is maybe not the best competent, they're not this and that. And they say, oh, well, I had to argue because he's incompetent. No, you knew that, you chose that, you wanted to use that as a fallback on to choose that, because it always baffled me. Well, when I met him, he was living with his mom. Okay, so what about that attracted him? No, something you saw is like, I can have the upper hand. I can control him. Just like you 6'6", you got the little man on you. You going to take him down the paint. He barbecue chicken because you know you have an advantage.
He's a barbecue
and so you calling for the ball because I got I got this one right here, right? But if your situation or your beliefs were different, you would act and move different. And so if you're not betting, like, because I know some people, maybe they didn't have that, maybe they was young. Okay, well, when you get a certain age, you have to take accountability for your choices in the past and then what you're going to do going forward to make it different. All right. So in that instance is if you see a man who's competent, because obviously and this is the other thing, right? In order for a lot of men to be successful, they have to be confident. They have to be good at certain things that they do. They're not going to get subsidies. They're not going to get propped up. So a lot of these women, they believe it's like them where, oh, I got this because of my looks, not because I'm really, really smart. They subconsciously tell them that. And so they devalue the work and effort that man had to deal with and put in order for him to achieve that level of success and that confidence. So now they want to question everything. They want to challenge everything just because they have that same issue with themselves, because they know I did some things the easy way or got some things the easy way.
Yeah. And that's why so many are going to be, like Kevin said, sad if they don't change, they're going to die alone. Hold tight.
I don't give a damn who feel a way about it. It's important to me. Money is power no matter who has it. You better know that. Okay. How many women right now or men are in domestically violent situations because they don't have the capacity financially to leave and go in.
And so you see how it goes back to that color purple narrative. She's already coming in with a deficit mindset and assuming that man's she's gonna be abusive. The likelihood of that happening to her is probably slim to none, because I would say most men, American men, are docile. They've been trained to serve their women. They've been trained to be drones instead of being trained to be kings. And so they worship the queen instead of worshiping masculinity. So what she's saying doesn't even make any sense, man. What's your take?
Well, I agree with that in the sense that, again, she says money is power. And so even with her, right, I would say with her, money as well as status. And she wants to enter into a situation where she has the upper hand, whether it's like, I make the most, which she's not going to really do. She's not going to enter in a situation with a man like that, or this man makes this to make me feel a certain way about myself so I can tell my girlfriend this. But because I have my own, I can leave when I get ready. I don't have to listen. That's the power she's talking about. But again, it don't take 500,000 to do that. You can do that with 30,000. You, like a woman who make 30,000, she just may not want to do the work that is required. But again, let's look at this, right? Tia Mowry, right? She made the money. She left her situation. Now, from a standpoint of she gonna be homeless tomorrow, no, I don't see that happening. But other things that money can't buy, she can't get, which is love, respect from a man that she loves and respect. That's something that she can't afford, right? And so, again, when people say not having to take stuff, just what are you willing to sacrifice? There's some people who say, you know what, I'd rather live on the street than let you control me. Some people actually believe that.
Right.
Or I quit before I allow people to exploit me, or I'll do everything before I engage in certain behaviors. That's their belief. Your belief is you want stuff to be easy, and so some of these people, they will stay with the situation. Again, I'm not talking about where there's mental and those types of things, because there's things like that. But it could be a situation that's not abusive in that manner, but they don't want to lead a lifestyle. They just not willing to make. They're not willing to make the sacrifice to make the change. And I'll give you an example because, again, you're a clinician. Mm-hmm. So in order for people to make changes, they have to change certain behaviors. Mm-hmm. Some are going to be easier to change. Some are going to be a little bit more difficult to change. The people who make the shift, whether it's someone who wants to get in shape, someone who wants to be better business-wise, someone who wants to go to school and study, they're willing to do the work and get sacrificed, right? They want to get the real PhD versus the honorary doctorate. There's a difference between the two.
Right. Yes, sir.
There's a difference between the two.
There's a difference between the two, right? I totally agree, brother. I got like E.F. Hutton. I got the old-fashioned way. I earned it. 12 long, hard years of earning it. My man Greg with Scotland said, I better understand why women will unsubscribe to your channel because you see through the BS and you don't hesitate to call it out. Well, Gregory Scotland, I appreciate brothers like yourself because you make it worth my time and you're dynamite. And also shout out to my man NC Recovery Wellness for the $2 super sticker. Thank you, brother. Let's finish this up. Then I'm gonna get me some wings because I'm hungry. Hold tight.
And
anywhere else, or they, would love to leave a unfulfilling relationship, because I love how people always act like people that, are in that middle to low income range. They're all good people. They all love their mamas and they're all perfect partners, right? Get the fuck out of here. No.
For real.
Unhappy, right? Let's stop that Tyler Perry bullshit. The reality is a lot of them are unhappy in those relationships.
And Eric, that goes back to being a broken woman. They don't come into a marriage with seeing the gray, but it's always either good or it's always either bad. And the black man is always the perpetrator of their pain, their fears, and their hopes, which in essence is what we call this. Hold tight. I'm going to show you something real quick. Hold tight. Kosher Bot, I need you to load up the machine.
Kosher Bot. Load the machine.
Yes, Master Kosher, at your service. Right away.
The topic at hand is the controversial statement that the color purple hates black men. To fully understand and explain this statement, it is important to provide context. The Color Purple is a novel written by Alice Walker in 1982, which was later adapted into a critically acclaimed film in 1985. The story revolves around African American women living in the rural South during the early 20th century, exploring themes of race, gender, and power dynamics. The statement that the color purple hates black men seems to stem from the perspective that some readers or viewers feel the book and film primarily focus on the mistreatment and abuse inflicted upon women by black men. While it is true that the novel and film address issues of domestic violence and male oppression, it is essential to note that the narrative also emphasizes the strength, resilience, and sisterhood of the female characters. Instead of promoting hatred towards black men, The Color Purple serves as an exploration of complex relationships between men and women within a particular historical and cultural backdrop. It highlights the struggles and challenges faced by African American women during a time of systemic racism and gender inequality. It is worth mentioning that literature and film can provoke diverse interpretations and emotional responses from different individuals. While some may interpret the story as being critical of black men, others find value in the book's exploration of intersectionality and the experiences of African American women. Ultimately, it is up to readers and viewers to engage with the story and form their own opinions. However, it is crucial to approach these discussions with an understanding of the historical and social context in which The Color Purple was created.
And so, Eric, they always talk about intersectionality. That's a feminist construct, feminist talking point, structure, political, representational intersectionality to show how race, gender, and discrimination intersect, especially in relation to black women. But it makes it seem like the black men with these magical Negroes, they will stand alongside with white men oppressing black women. And it's weird because we were in the struggle together. There's no evidence that black men historically oppress black women. The domestic issues that they're talking about is endemic to all ethnic groups, but they don't consider the men that created those things were victims of post-traumatic stress, had unhealthy coping mechanisms, which led them to doing some of the things that they did. Not being able to get gainful employment, being called boy, to the point that some of them left their families. They probably hit the women out of dealing with displaced aggression. They probably hit the women dealing with seeing the grandfathers get hung or being whipped by the slave master. But when it comes down to black male trauma, nobody, excuse my language, appears to give a damn. They just don't give a damn. Black men just by default are damn boogeymen, instead of understanding that black men went through trauma too and having a level of empathy towards the struggle of black men.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, because I was watching this and thinking back to the topic that 50 Cent had talked about is, and when Oprah said, okay, what's going on with him? He was someone who's shot 9 times. Now, that's not my life, but I can understand and empathize. But in addition, that narrative is not the only narrative that we get from men, right? You had the 50 Cent, you had Tupac, who both were shot. But then you had people like Mace who did party rap. You had people like Run DMC. So you had variety that show a lot of different perspectives, right? And so what with this, it's not necessarily that The Color Purple is a bad thing or a bad story, but when this is the only story being told, that's wherein lies the problem, where you form your life opinion based on one narrative. And we knew this, right, when we was coming, just like you have Michael Irvin's son, he wanted to be a gangster. He said, you ain't no gangster, you grew up in a gated community, right? Mm-hmm. And so what happens is, because one narrative, it garners a level of attention, or it makes them appear stronger than they really were. Like, he want to be hard even though he grew up in a gated community, because it makes him seem like he's stronger than he actually is. Mm-hmm. So some people are saying, okay, I'm just like Seeley, even though you wasn't. Just like Harpo, even though you wasn't, because it gives you the appearance or illusion of being stronger. And right. So when you have someone like we talk about, men in general, black men in particular, where their needs are not being heard, the traumas, the things that they have had to deal with is not being looked at. A lot of them don't have fathers who taught them how to cope and deal with certain challenges, certain situations that they went through. Then that leaves a lot of people not directed. They leave a lot of people in no man's land. And I'll say this: I can't remember how old I was. I did read the book The Color Purple, and I think that's probably I don't know what stage I read it, but I know the first adult book that I ever read, I read the autobiography of Malcolm X at like 11 or 12 years old, because I always had a natural curiosity. Whereas a lot of people, they don't have other narratives. And that's not, I guess, what sells what they see. And when we talk about what Kevin said, he would have called out Ebony K, not for what she said. He would have said, okay, well, what are you doing? Right? And she would have said, I'm having a baby single by choice. And he would have told her, well, there's people like Robert, I think someone put Robert De Niro or Al Pacino, whoever it is. There's people who are your age group who are still having children. Some men have never had children, having children for the first time, and some men who have had children are still wanting to. And he would even say, I'm someone who desires to have a child, even though I'm in my 50s and I have an adult child. So then he would flip it back on, what is it about you that these men don't want? That's what he would have told her. And that's where the issue would have hit the fan in that moment right there. And she wouldn't have been able to handle it. But now she's able to say, oh, okay, I'm doing these things where her ideas are not challenged. She's giving theoretical things where her ideas are not challenged. I don't know what's going to happen with Rihanna and ASAP Rocky or whatever it is, but that dude, she makes significantly more money than him. Right. And apparently she loved his dirty draws or whatnot. I mean, I don't know how, I know they're having another baby, but that's an example where Ebony wouldn't have dealt with someone like that because he has less status and less power than him, right? Even Oprah, she has a man who she's been dealing with who has less power and less status than her. So Ebony just wants to be in control. And I remember I was talking to a woman and she's like, oh, I may be submitted. I said, look. The truth of the matter is you don't want to be submissive. That's fine. Don't say we got all these preconditions. Just say you don't want to do it. And it's okay that you don't want to do it. I'm just going to govern myself accordingly.
And I'm gonna tell you something. You know, if you're somebody that they've already pre-selected, you don't have to worry about all that. No way. If you really her pre-selection, she'll compromise a lot more if you're the one that she really wanted versus the one that she selling for. MC Recovering Wellness said, great content, Casey. Hope to do a color purple stream. I met Ebony at the Pan-African Art Film Festival last year. Her book signing was there. Well, we got one coming up real soon. We'll play the ad before we finish this off. And you're dynamite. We're gonna end this in a minute. Man, this has been great, Eric. We gotta do another show, man.
For sure.
Talking about the high value. Man, you did a good job, man. When's your birthday,
Eric? In 11 days.
Oh, you're 11 days. Oh yeah, you about that money. I see why you a high value, man. You about that money, man.
Well, again, too. I mean, I just had a good family. Again, my family was, and this is why, even like as an image consultant and a stylist, I wasn't always this good at it. And that's why, and even Kevin, he said, yeah, he used to do some things that made his other relationship fail. That's why he could teach it before. And so I just been fortunate to have a family that's they've always been landowners. They've been they've done well. And we do that.
Good.
But again, I can still be empathetic and understand the challenges that other men and other people deal with. Ebony is funny because she, like you may agree because you the clinician. I'm just sitting in the chair. She has a lot of narcissistic tendencies, and she can get away with that because again, women are not held accountable. They're going to always default to it's the man's fault that she's like this, and they're not going to do a deep dive and examination to her faults and issues.
Right. No, I agree with you. You're right. It's always a man's fault. I told you, let's finish listening to this real quick, and we're going to end the stream. Thank you, brother.
Out together. We just spoke about this.
Literally, they cannot fiscally look at these interest rates. Look at these rental rates.
Can't afford to go anywhere.
New York, because I was paying $6,000 a month rent for a 1-bedroom apartment. Get the hell out of here. So let me go ahead and get this mortgage situation going. So, those are some of the things. So you can't have it all. I don't care who you are, man or woman, but you can have a lot of what you want if you're willing to tell the truth about what that is and what that looks like.
No doubt. We're going to end in a minute. Eric, this has been a good one, man. Hold tight. MC Recovery said, what did he say? He said, where Eric channel at Success Concierge. Tell them about that, Eric, real quick.
Well, no, I'm my channel is I am Eric Hall. Like you can see it in my logo back here. I'm a Success Concierge. That's my brand. I'm a personal and corporate brand and image consultant. And so what I do is I help individuals with their personal image, their career image, and then businesses, different things as it relates to their business life that helps them be successful in business. So we focus on the A, appearance, B, behavior, C, communication, and the D, digital footprint. And so, I take clients in that space. I go live. I do different things about image, fashion, whatever's clever. And I got a good breakdown. I told you I'm doing Jonathan Majors this week, so that's going to be interesting.
Well, we got to look at that. I tell you what we do. You do the Jonathan Majors breakdown. Bring that over to my channel. We'll do the high value man in consortium with Jonathan Major and the things high value men need to look for. So we're going to identify what a high value man is. Mm-hmm. But then, I say high value, high earning because you could be a high earning man, not be high value, in my opinion. But you can be high value, but don't make as much money, but you still have value. But that's for another conversation. And then once you do your breakdown with Jonathan Majors, we'll talk about some of the things men need to be on the lookout for. Shout out to my man, Sir Hell Speak. Yes, the one and only. Man, international quiet star hating on that Leo swag, man. We the king of kings, man. Like the young folks say, stop playing. That's what the young folks say, Eric.
All right, well, it's all good. I mean, y'all had y'all time. It's coming up right now. It's sad season. It's gonna be Capricorn season. When it's Leo season, we salute y'all. But y'all don't run the whole year. Y'all just run a portion of it. So
it's a portion of it.
Oh yeah, Quiet Storm. You in 10 days? You Capricorn as well too?
No. Quiet Storm got that. Sex
10 days ago. 10 days ago. Okay, so he's
an intellectual man. He's
he's over there with I want to say Day After Obsidian.
Right.
I want to say Tommy Sotomayor.
Yeah, Tommy.
He's a Sag. And I've gotten to meet him and chat with him. It's been many years since I've spoken with him, but yeah, I know he's a Sag. As Obsidian says, Archers of the World Unite. Well, no, it's y'all time for another 6 days.
The intellectual brothers, but I got Pantro in the house. He got that Leo swag like me.
Okay,
we the king of kings. Sir Hill Speaks in the house.
Okay.
Shout out to Sir Hill Speaks.
Shout out to Sir Hill. Shout out to Quiet Storm. I spent some time with him. He a good brother too. So
good brother, very very intellectual brother, man. He got that fire. He got that fire like us Leos, man. So shout out to him too, man. But before we end, man, about 2 minutes, Eric, because I love your energy, man. I love your pragmatism, and I love your candor. But what'd you get from this show? But before you tell me, let me run this clip real quick, and then we're gonna end it. Hold tight.
Word on the streets. Get ready for an epic joint live stream event. Join us as we bring together the powerhouses of live streamers. Messi Masson.
Oh, hold tight.
Word on the streets. Get ready for an epic joint live stream event. Join us as we bring together the powerhouses of live streamers. Messi Masson Live? This might be risky. The Kosher Clinician. Take heed to the message. Will Bravado Network. Black Man Unfiltered. Painful Excellence Podcast. And Harmonize 78. We are expecting other high-profile guests. Together, we're diving deep into the controversial cinematic update of The Color Purple. It's a no-holds-barred discussion with a burning question. Was the film the original attack on the black male image of America? A first-of-its-kind, epic live joint stream? This is more than just a question. It's a riveting exploration of perspectives so potent, it will shatter and reshape everything you thought you knew about this cinematic saga. This isn't just an event. It's a groundbreaking, eye-opening odyssey into the depths of film critique and social commentary. Don't just watch. Be a part of a systemic shift in understanding. December 18th, 7:30 p.m. Central. Set your reminders. Word on the streets. Don't miss this.
So we're gonna kill it, Eric. We're gonna shut the internet down, man.
Dinner time. It's all good.
Man, we're gonna be feasting. I'm gonna be at the table eating lamb chops, man. We're gonna kill it.
Okay.
Game, But real quick, man, thank you, man. I can't believe this show ended up being three hours, man. Wow, we did a good job. I gotta get me something to eat, man. But we're gonna do it again, but in under 2 minutes. 2 minutes, Eric. What'd you get from the show? Go ahead.
Well, it just made me examine previous thought processes, and The Color Purple, in a sense, it told a story. It told a negative aspect, which is fine. I mean, people can have their perspectives. But when that's the only thought process and people run with that, that's wherein the challenge lies. And so as someone who likes to look at things, whether it's I agree with it or I disagree with it, I like to see what I can extract and see what I can learn, because part of being good at what you do is I always say I'm a scientist, and scientists, they have theories, they challenge it, they prove, they disprove, and they do that. And so this kind of helped me just say it out loud, some of those types of things, and understand a different perspective. I think there's nothing wrong with the work of art in that sense, but it requires further examination as well as an opportunity to counter that narrative and counter that argument with real life information as well as real life anecdotal information. Because again, I read The Color Purple, but the first book I read was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And so that's flies in the face of how men operated.
Right. Harold Melvin in the Blue Note say, world don't get no better. He said, if you can't change it, just let it be. And I think a lot of men are beginning to live or more or less adhere to the sentiments of Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes and the late Teddy Pendergrass. It doesn't appear that the world is getting better. It appears it's getting worse. And the things that men want in women has taken things from a negative turn, because the level of hubris, the level of delusion, the level of entitlement is on steroids. And it appears that Kevin's prophecy is coming to pass. I'm going to do a show at some point called What Would the Lonely Do for Christmas? That's a song that was made back in the 60s. And it seems like Kevin's prophecy is coming true, man. You know, he said winter was coming. We say now winter is here. And some thought he was harsh when he said that they're going to die alone. But listen, Jesus said, I set before you life and death. Choose. You can choose. You can. God give all men the right to have free will. When you choose to be arrogant, when you choose to be hubris, when you choose to be a victim of your carnal hypergamy, then you become a saboteur of your own ignorance. And if you are a saboteur, then it's on you because you chose it. So it's not that you're going to be alone because you didn't have alternatives, but you're going to be alone because you chose to be alone, because you aggrandize yourself better than what you really are, because top-tier men would never settle for mediocre women. And then on that note, Eric, we're going to sign off, brother. I appreciate it, man. Thank you, man. Listen, let's do another one, man.
Sure.
The high value, man. Go ahead and do that critique. You and I will be in the background talking at some point.
Okay.
And brother, we will take it from there, man. Be good, brother.
Absolutely. Have a great evening. Salute everybody.
All right, brother.
All right.
Cognitive dissonance is a condition that happens for a myriad of reasons. Many times in modern America, men and women often do one of the following. They deny the evidence. They become enraged when you present them with the evidence. They argue to ad hominem attacks, meaning they attack the messenger instead of the message. And they will fight you or flee because they cannot hear what you are saying. A condition such as this, tied into cognitive dissonance, often happens to those that have or lack self-awareness. They stay in a perpetual cycle of arrested development, exhibited by this.
Hey, girl, you gonna eat your cornbread?
Don't say nothing. You talking to me? Yeah, I think you're talking to you.
腰はひねって S 字型。
When my friends go, it was simple. When the ends low, switch the tempo. I got right, I got heart, I won't die, I'ma fight. I go down, then I strike. I go hard day and night, yeah. I go hard day and night. 1-1, no surprise. See the hate in their eyes. My brother's blood money bleed. I got the game in the squeeze. What would you do for some green? What would you do for some blues? Go pick and choose the fam of the cheese. Some people not built like that. Some people get killed like that. Pressure like water, lights, mortgage. I've been at bills like that. Now I got kids like that. No wonder why I feel like that. Some people go to war for nothing. Me, I go to war for something.
Before there was the manosphere, I was. Before there was the internet, I was.
When the end's low, switch the tempo. I got right, I got heart, I won't die, I'ma fight. I go down, bet I strike. I go hard day and night. Money on the line, keep calling. Money on the books, need all that. My kids, they'll be ballin'. Got a real bankroll, not for Instagram. My mama on the line, keep calling. Praying for me, know I need all that. Told me it's not about ballin'. Real blessed, but I'm still sinning, man. What would you do for a win? What would you do for your friends? What if this life is a foe? What if the dogs pretend? What if you roll to the end? What if you started again?
Fire! The kosher clinician.